need it. I need it. Let's go. The guy.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys on the online news show. All right, so we've got Iran updates today. How deep into the war are we going, etc. Of course, your daily updates and daily curiosity about is the war going to be over or expanded imminently? And then speaking of expansion, Israel goes into southern Lebanon. And we have a lot of details on what has happened there, and as usual, it is gruesome. And then a little bit later in the program, a couple other things. Speaking of gruesome, ICE detention facilities, the violence has gone up tremendously, and not from the detainees, of course, but from the guards. Yep. And then we're going to show you some of my interview with Shawn Ryan because I think that it's a really interesting moment of unification among the right and the left on at least several super important issues. So all that on tonight's show. Casper.
Well, we begin with some updates on the Iran war, which we were led to believe yesterday had ended its ceasefire because you had the US and Iran attacking each other. But today we learned something entirely different. So let's get to the story.
To be clear, this operation is separate and distinct from Operation Epic Fury. Project Freedom is defensive in nature, focused in scope, and temporary in duration, with one mission: protecting innocent commercial shipping from Iranian aggression. American forces won't need to enter Iranian waters or airspace. It's not necessary. We're not looking for a fight. But Iran also cannot be allowed to block innocent countries and their goods from an international waterway. Iran is the clear aggressor, harassing civilian vessels, threatening mariners from every nation indiscriminately, and weaponizing a critical choke point for its own financial benefit, or at least trying to.
I mean, you're doing a lot of work to try to convince the American people that Iran is the aggressor when it was the United States that decided to enter an illegal war, start an illegal war against Iran at the behest of Israel. But nonetheless, the ceasefire with Iran, according to the Trump administration, is still intact. But Project Freedom, which of course is meant to safely guide cargo vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, is allegedly a temporary operation, according to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And it's probably a temporary mission because we don't have the weaponry necessary to shoot down Iran's drones or their boats in an effort to help guide various vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. But I've got more details in a second. Cenk, your brief 2 cents.
Yeah, so 2 things about this. One is, we'll get to why all the reasons why what Hegseth said is not just horse crap, but why they're saying it in this exact way, right? What they're trying to accomplish, which is super goofy in my opinion. It's all wordplay, but it affects legal options here. The second thing we're going to talk about is what in the world are we trying to accomplish now? And because Iran has already offered the exact terms we want. So that leads to this mystery that we're in today. So Anna, I'll give you the facts and then we'll analyze.
So the latest reporting on Iran in the Wall Street Journal specifically claims that Trump desperately wants to avoid restarting the hot war with Iran. So actual fighting, actual bombing, that kind of stuff. And even though we are still at war technically with Iran, over the past few days, Trump has downplayed it as a mini war. He's also referred to it as a little skirmish. In fact, we have some of that on tape, so let's take a quick look at that.
Our country's booming now, despite the fact that we're in I call it a mini war, because that's all they are. They don't have a Navy anymore.
You know, we hit an all-time high stock market today, despite that we're in a little skirmish, military. I call it a skirmish because Iran has no chance.
I want to curl up in the fetal position and rock back and forth. Like this is so embarrassing. Okay, so it's worth noting that the language has changed over time. Trump's language on this has changed over time. February 28th, the day that he started the war, he referred to it as a major combat operation. March 1st, 4-week process. By the way, we've already passed the 2-month mark. March 9th, just an excursion. March 11th, excursion that will keep us out of a war. Mind you, we were in a war and continue to be in a war. March 26th, little detour. April 16th, little diversion. May 1st, hostilities have terminated. Today, mini war.
Soon it'll be little Marco. So the reason why he's changing all these terms is because once you get to 60 days, Congress has to vote on it. So that's why Hegseth was like, well, epic fury's over, so you don't have to vote on that. This is a new mission, not war, because we're not gonna vote on war. And this will give us another 60 days. And this is called Project Freedom. So we have found a legal loophole so that Congress doesn't have to authorize this war. Well, that's semantics and nonsense. Congress can just vote on it. Obviously, it's the same exact war. Why is the Strait of Hormuz blocked and the Iranians are aggressors? Yeah, if you minus the fact that we bombed the living crap out of their country just like a minute ago, right? So it's absurd on every count.
You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You cannot be aligned with Israel and do Israel's bidding and not embarrass the American people with your actions in regard to Iran. So we're not stupid. There are no kamikaze dolphins. Like, please stop, please, for the love of God, please stop saying humiliating things before the American people, treating them as if they're total morons. Take the deal from Iran if members of the Trump administration are legitimately, shaking in their boots about enriched uranium. Take the deal, say that you won, okay, spin it as a big victory. And for Israel, to calm them down, deuces, done, we're done with you, we're moving on. I know that's not gonna calm them down, they're gonna freak out, but who cares? Tiny little irrelevant country in the Middle East that dragged us into a war that we shouldn't have been dragged into. End it now. But of course, that's not gonna happen. Trump knows who his daddy is. So now let's watch Pete Hegseth get flustered when asked about Trump's shifting rhetoric.
I want to first express my gratitude and admiration for the work you do and for everyone involved in our armed forces. On the first day of this conflict, President Trump addressed the Iranian people directly and said, when we're finished, take over your government. It'll be yours to take. And then on the 7th day of the conflict, in a Truth Social post, the president said, quote, there will be no deal with Iran except, all caps, exclamation mark, unconditional surrender. What happens to that pledge to the Iranians? And when did the president decide to capitulate on his demand for unconditional surrender?
Well, James, I wouldn't. You started out nicely, but you ended exactly where we knew you would end. The president hasn't capitulated on anything. He holds the cards. We maintain the upper hand, and Project Freedom only strengthens that hand.
You're a little bitch. That's what you are, Hegseth. Okay, this is such a waste of time, and the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Okay, we can't just keep shooting down drones and fighting the Iranians as we're trying to help guide vessels through the Strait. You have to use diplomacy to end this. But here's the problem. We have 2 countries involved in this fight against Iran, and these 2 countries have different objectives. Israel doesn't want it to end because they want regime change or a failed state. The United States, in my opinion, doesn't even care about the enriched uranium, but is pretending to care about the enriched uranium in order to, I don't know, keep us in this war that doesn't benefit the American people at all in any way, shape, or form. Just a few more details here, Cenk, and then I'll go to you. Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Trump is conflicted about what to do next with Iran, which is incredibly obvious to anyone paying attention. US officials say that Trump for days has toggled between 2 competing impulses: severely punishing Iran for failing to abandon its nuclear work and avoiding a significant escalation that could draw the US deeper into a Middle East conflict. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal, President Trump is genuine, sincere in wanting to end Iran's enrichment of uranium, but he does not want to resume US strikes, probably because our weapons have been depleted. Trump believed that the US could get concessions from Iran by blockading the Strait of Hormuz. You did get concessions, you didn't take it, but nonetheless, Iran has yet to make an offer that Trump likes. But I don't know how much further Iran could possibly go to please President Trump. Like, what more do you want? They offered to end their nuclear enrichment program.
Yeah. So look, there's a lot more things that are clear now and still some that are left to be decided. First, a couple of small points. They keep saying that Iran is the aggressor because they want to frame it as we didn't start a war. We're just doing self-defense here. Look, for the MAGA guys that are still watching Fox News, yeah, sure, you could tell them that, that Iran attacked Missouri and they'll believe it, right? So he doesn't even have to bother with that lie and no one else believes him. So that's point one. It's point two, I'm really worried that the stock market is accidentally encouraging him. Since the market hasn't crashed because they keep believing him like morons, he keeps going, well, the stock market's fine, so I guess we should continue the war, because what he was really worried about was when the war first started, the markets crashed, and that upsets rich people, so that greatly upset Trump, and he was super worried about it. Then the market lost its mind. They're like, the war's over. Who cares? Who cares? And now Trump has now said repeatedly, you saw it one time, but I've seen it many times. He's like, the market's fine, so everything's good, so we can keep going in the war.
Everything is not fine. Not only is the price of oil and gas skyrocketing right now and is only going to increase more because of limited supply due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, we have a shortage of fertilizer, and American farmers are devastated by that, and it's only going to get worse. 1/3 of the world's fertilizer comes or is transported through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
So no, everything is not fine. Inflation is already hitting us. It's only going to get worse. But the precious stock market, the precious stock market's doing so well. The wealthy are okay. They can afford a little bit of inflation when it comes to food and gas and things that, working class Americans are struggling with. Who cares? Stock market's doing well.
Not a single donor cares about the price of gas. They're so rich that doesn't affect them at all. It's 0.01% of their salary, let alone income and wealth, etc. So for them, the gas price is totally irrelevant. The only thing that's irrelevant is the beloved stock market, okay? So, all right, so that's a bad incentive and a bad misunderstanding by Trump there. Okay, now to the main point that Anna's making about this war, I had to go back and double check because I'm like, everyone in American media seems to be saying that Iran didn't offer to end their enrichment program. But I swear I saw in their peace offer that they basically offered to end it. So I went back and double checked. Yeah, they did. They promised zero stockpile of enrichment. They promised that there would be no enrichment for years, and that enrichment would be kept to between 3 and 3.6%, which is nowhere near a weapons possibility, not within miles of it.
You need 90% enrichment to build a nuclear weapon.
So wait a minute. Iran definitively already offered to end their enrichment program that could be turned into a weapon. No question, no doubt. Okay, I get Trump is lying about it. I get Israel is lying about it because they have always wanted that as an excuse to go into the war and to stay in the war. Why is all of American media lying about it? It's insane, guys. It's in black and white. There is no question. In fact, those outlets reported on it. Then they had collective amnesia, which they do all the time. And the very next day, they all pretended Iran didn't offer to end their enrichment program. It is insane.
Hold on, let me also remind everybody, literally days before the US struck Iran and started the war, you had the Omani mediator, the person involved in the negotiations between the United States and Iran, go on one of those Sunday shows and tell Margaret Brennan that the Iranians were willing to give up enrichment of uranium, that the talks were actually making some progress. And what's really interesting is Steve Witkoff went and lied and said, no, that's not the case. They have enriched uranium enough and have enough of it to build X number of bombs in the next week. which was totally false. He lied. He sabotaged peace. Gee, I wonder why. Why did Steve Witkoff do that? Why did he lie to the American people about Iran? Anyway,
so that's 3 times that they've offered to end their enrichment program, including one time that they did. That was the Obama deal, right? So, and then Israel's like, oh, you ended your weapons program. We hate that because that was going to be an excuse for us. That's all literal. We all know that was if you ask a reporter, did they end their weapons program under the Obama deal? They will say, yes, they did. And then when we got out of it, did we not use it as an excuse to go attack them? Yes, we did, right? Did they not offer right before the war to end their enrichment program again? Yes, they did. Did they just not offer it literally 2 days ago? Yes, they did. So why are you all saying and pretending that Hegseth and Trump, when they say, well, we've got to prevent the nukes. The only thing we're in this war because we don't want a nuclear weapon exploded, as if they're gonna hit San Antonio tomorrow. I mean, look, and now, look, guys, I grew up in a mainstream media that was filled with propaganda. The whole point was propaganda, but it was subtle. And they were really, really good at it. Now they're getting over the top. I heard that same Wall Street Journal article that Anna's talking about, it was comical. It would frame it all in terms of, well, Donald Trump is trying to stop the war, but Iran has attacked again. Are you kidding me? Now you're just flat out lying.
No, I know, that's exactly right. So look, this is how consent is manufactured, right? So, look, this war was never about nuclear weapons. It was never about nuclear weapons. Considering the fact that there was a nuclear deal in place with checks and balances to ensure that Iran is not building a nuke, is not enriching uranium to the point where they have the materials to build a nuke. That was in place thanks to what Obama accomplished in his second term. Trump comes in, rips it up, which paves the way for Iran to enrich uranium. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? And that was used as, in their minds, leverage in the negotiations with the United States. But there is no negotiation with the United States when Israel is involved. Because for Israel, this was never about nuclear weapons. It was never about their ballistic missiles. It was always about regime change or a failed state. Either one would be good enough for Israel. They want to weaken Iran so they can do, honestly, exactly what they've been doing for the last 2.5 years. Expanding into territory that doesn't belong to them, including in Lebanon.
So I'm gonna get to Israel and Lebanon real quick in a second, but I wanna give you guys a sense of what the Wall Street Journal said so you know that I'm not exaggerating. So this is a very typical paragraph in the middle of the story. They say, now Trump has little choice but to make a decision between ordering a fresh round of airstrikes against Iran or brushing off Tehran's provocations and charging ahead with his diplomatic initiative.
He has little choice. That's an opinion in what's supposed to be a straight news article, right? That's an opinion.
And not only that, they make it seem like Trump's the victim of Iran here, and that he has no choice. I mean, and the 2 things that he's considering is either matching Iran's terrible provocations that they're obviously at fault for, or continuing in his benighted and holy mission, diplomatic mission to resolve this. Now the propaganda is so thick you could see it. That's insane, right?
What would happen if?
It's embarrassing, by the way. I mean, if you're the reporter who wrote that, please retire.
Let's see, what was that reporter's name? Yeah. I can look it up right now as we speak.
Yeah,
Alexander Ward.
Yeah, Alexander Ward, just humiliating. Okay, no, just retire. Okay, so now, look, here's another thing that our media is, I've seen it. That's why the framing is amazing. So I had to go and double check this one too. One of our warships was hit. And they actually write it in like paragraph 17, paragraph 32. One of our warships was hit by the Iranians as it was trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz.
Operation Freedom.
That's not a small little, that's a giant headline. Holy cow, Iran hit one of our warships. And they're like, yeah, I mean, I am including the fact, so you can't criticize me, they hit one of our warships. And then they're like, as if it's no big deal. And then they're all pretending like the Strait of Hormuz is almost open.
Yeah.
It's unreal. So guys, the 2 things that are gonna be determinative here is, well, the number 1 thing is Israel. They're gonna make the decision and then they're gonna let us know. And they've made that decision. That was the thrust of our show yesterday when they sent out all their pundits from all the different areas, all with the same talking point, saying, oh no, we have to do one of 2 things, go back in and do a regime change. So they're back all the way to the regime change, or we have to really heavily arm the Iranians. And that's the cause of civil war. So we've told you many times, plan A for Israel is regime change, put in a puppet that'll serve them. Plan B is a devastating civil war that'll probably kill millions of people in Iran, but that'll keep them busy so that Israel is the only regional superpower. So Israel is not going to pause. And that leads to the second thing, which is they definitely want Lebanon, and they again have made it absolutely clear now. There was a little period there of a couple of weeks where their intentions were not perfectly clear because they had taken a lot of hits, and it looked like maybe they're concerned that they're running out of interceptor missiles for Iron Dome. Maybe they got hit too hard in Lebanon and they're rethinking it. But they've regrouped and they've made a final decision. They're definitely going to continue in Lebanon, and they want us to definitely continue in Iran. So actually, if we're right, that means the die is already cast, because we don't believe America is in control of the American government. We believe Israel's in control of the American foreign policy. So the rest is all window dressing. You'll see with your own eyes probably in a couple of days or a couple of weeks whether we're right or wrong about that. But right now, it's important for you to know the actual facts, because you're really not getting them in mainstream media. They're burying them.
If you're ever asking yourself what the intentions are of the Israelis, look at the options, look at the possibilities, and always pick the absolute worst intentions, because that's what they're gonna pursue. That has been their intention from the very beginning. So far 17 Israeli soldiers have been killed in Lebanon since March 2nd. So they are paying a bit of a price, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if they're able to capture the entirety of Lebanon at this point, because they've already made clear we're taking southern Lebanon. And they're already talking about settling it. And by the way, those settlers are probably gonna deal with some resistance, some attacks. And I don't wanna hear anybody forcing me or pressuring me to feel empathy or sympathy for any of them, because I won't. That's stolen land, it's blood-soaked land, and this is what the Israelis do again and again, and then they make themselves out to be precious little victims when they're targeted by the resistance.
Yeah, anyone who does that, which is almost all of national media, are obviously propagandists who work for Israel. So I don't want to hear any of their nonsense. And when they start crying their crocodile tears about, we're so worried about bigotry, please, we can't stand your lies anymore. We're vomiting your lies. So the final point is a quick one. I've now started reading, Anna, in national media again, 2 different articles. They don't say that Hezbollah are terrorists for killing the 17 IDF soldiers that are invading their homes and their land, because that's a bridge too far. It's so obviously wrong.
Looting homes, by the way, as well.
And looting them and putting them on tape. Haha, we're robbing them before we kill them and destroy their homes, etc. But what they're saying now is they're saying, well, Israel was forced to attack, and then 17 Israeli soldiers have been killed by Hezbollah, making it seem like Hezbollah is the aggressor. I mean, come on.
I'm done with it.
But if you read, these papers, New York Times, Washington Post, etc., you'll get the impression that poor Israel is about to lose all of their territory and maybe their entire existence. They're down to a tiny amount of land, and Hezbollah and Iran keeps aggressively attacking them for no reason at all, but because they hate Jews, right? And so the propaganda is unbearable.
Yeah.
And obviously they've taken over our media, because no objective reporter would ever report it like this. It's over the top.
When we come back from the break, I want to show you how touchy Pete Hegseth gets when he's asked about Israel's influence over the White House. And we'll also talk about how all of this is impacting the approval ratings of both the Trump administration and the Republican Party overall. Come right back.
I like tacos.
All right, let's go to members on TYT.com. Uriah Heap says, welcome to the Palace of Truth and Justice. That gives us a chance to see the light of this and believe in who gives us this truth. Thank you, Uriah, appreciate it. Gemma says, the stock market continues to hit all-time highs because US consumers are paying corporations record high prices, including gas. And just as corporations are ready to fire record numbers of Americans replacing them with AI. So guys, I don't even believe the jobs numbers anymore, because sometimes anecdotal evidence overwhelms poll number or some other number that people are putting out there. That doesn't happen often, but this is one of those cases. Every story I hear about AI in real world is people getting fired, and then Trump administration reports that no, job numbers are going up. I don't believe it. And even if there's some sort of weird temporary blip like that, there's no way in the world that it holds. So I guarantee economic oblivion by the end of Trump's term, okay? So, but all right, let's see who's right and who's wrong. And the stock market is filled with, it's a mental asylum. The fact that they think that the economy is in great shape now means that all of those guys don't know anything. They're unbelievable in their ignorance. Okay, Cenk's left tricep or fury. And by the way, this is not about them. It's human beings. Warren Buffett said, why do you think nobody can buy low and sell high? Because when things are high, everybody's buying like maniacs. Cenk's left tricep or fury says, not to mention unemployment numbers due to rise, Spirit Airlines, hello. And that is one of hundreds of examples I can give you. But the lunatics in Wall Street are like, buy. All right, back on TYT Cenk and Anna with you guys. A couple of fun YouTube member comments for you. Florian A31 says, Anna calling Hegseth a little bitch hits different. Love it. Okay, that's what they said.
Forgot I did that.
And then Great Riffus here says, love that beautiful fire, Anna, all in the name of Israel. I'm tired of Americans dying for another country.
Same. I'm tired of looking around and seeing our country fall apart and then looking to the political leadership that couldn't give a damn about us. I'm so sick of it.
Well, don't worry though, Ted Cruz got an award from the Israelis today.
Ted Cruz is disgusting, okay? He makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, but everyone who has pledged their loyalty to serve Israel in the Senate is in great shape. And mainstream media says they're amazing, wonderful people. And we're all, of course, anti-Semites for criticizing them. All right, go ahead.
All right, let's get to our next story. All right. Today, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was asked if the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dog walks President Donald Trump. Now, we here at the Young Turks are fully aware that Trump gets dog walked on a daily basis, thus humiliating himself and the American people. But how did Hegseth handle that question? Let's take a look.
In recent weeks, both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's head of Mossad have stated their intent not to cease combat with the Iranians. Netanyahu put this on Twitter. Israel's head of Mossad said Israel's goals are not finished until the Iranian government collapses. And so they're referring to the government that President Trump has brokered a ceasefire with and is working on a lasting peace in the region with. And so that's something many Americans, especially American farmers, are hoping he does get to a lasting peace. And so if President Trump is successful in that and the Israelis are explicitly stating their intent to continue fighting at a later date, how can you ensure America doesn't get roped back into a war if that comes? And secondly, with Netanyahu comfortable tweeting something like that out, and also Netanyahu has continued bombing Lebanon despite President Trump explicitly telling him not to.
I would say your question is based on the false premise that somehow President Trump is being pulled in by Prime Minister Netanyahu to any of these actions. And that's where you're going. Just to be clear, President Trump has led at every step of this based on his view of American interest and America first. And we're grateful that Israelis have been very capable partners at many steps of this. And they may have some objectives at times that are slightly different than ours. But there's only one hand on the wheel ultimately directing this, whether it's Project Freedom or previously Operation Epic Fury, and it's President Trump.
Sure, buddy. Whatever you need to tell yourself to get through the day and be able to sleep at night, sure. You guys are the only ones with the hands on the wheels. We totally got it. Cenk, back to you.
The most important part of that was what the reporter said. The Israeli government is saying that no, we must continue the war until the Iranian government collapses, which not only would be an extension of the war for years, but it would involve tens of thousands of American troops and certain disaster. So, well, we're gonna find out who's in charge soon. Back to you.
And by the way, complete destruction of the global economy, given the importance of the Strait of Hormuz and the very real situation on the ground, which is that only diplomatic means could end that blockade. There is no military option available to the United States. We don't have the production capacity, domestically speaking, to build enough weaponry to compete with Iran's incredibly cheap drones. And we're already dealing with a situation where we've depleted 80%, upward of 80% at this point, of our missile interceptors. Like, what are we doing? What are we even doing right now? But okay, yeah, I'm sure that the US is in charge and Trump isn't getting dog walked by Israel, even as his approval ratings are tanking, even as the economy is suffering. I mean, total clown show here. What's amazing though, Cenk, is ironically an ever so slight majority of Israelis think that Trump is the one pulling Netanyahu's strings.
Of course, because they've been taught that they're the victims and they're powerless.
I know.
Totally powerless.
But even
and they
so,
control nothing at all. They barely can control themselves.
But even so, I think it's telling that the number is 51%. So 51% of Israelis believe that the Trump administration has more influence over Israel's defense decisions than the government, with Israeli Jews having a similar view, 56%, while Arab Israelis think both the government and the US administration have equal decision-making power. Okay, so
and the Arabs are also wrong. That's not even close.
I agree, yeah. But still, 49% of Israelis are like, oh yeah, we're spanking the US, we're the ones in control. Think about that.
Well, that's a good point. Well, to be fair, 44% of Israeli Jews, so a little lower number, think, yeah, we obviously own America and control their foreign policy and their government, but if you say it, we'll destroy your life.
Yep.
Okay, I'm allowed to say it. I'm allowed to think it if I'm an Israeli Jew. But if you say it, I'll send my dogs after you, the ones that I know I control. That's called American media, let alone American government. Last thing, speaking of what the Israelis think, 82% were in favor of going further in Gaza. The genocide was not enough for them. 79% are in favor of attacking Lebanon and taking their land. So we've lost the country. It's become a fully fascist state.
Well, let me just say that over the last 2.5 years, a lot of the Israelis who don't agree with what's been going on have left Israel. Yeah. I was on a flight recently and there was a couple sitting in front of me. The man in the couple turned around and said, "Thank you for what you're doing. I really, really appreciate it." And I said, "Thank you." And then he's like, "My wife is Israeli." And she turned around and was like, "Oh yeah, I watch your show." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like a little bit scared. But no, there are definitely Israelis who don't agree with it, and a lot of them have left Israel.
Yeah, I talked to a former Israeli a couple of weeks ago. He's in London now because he's a great guy and he can't stomach the genocide. But what's more important in their personal lives is how they get bullied inside of Israel.
Of course.
Right, because fascists will not abide by any dissent. And so once a country becomes fascist, they're gonna try to drive out all the good people in the country.
Yeah, and they're succeeding in that.
Yeah.
And what you have left is an extremist society that is cheering on more genocide, more bloodshed, more land theft, and it's terrible.
So I'm gonna remind you guys of this one more time. Israel is the size of Papua New Guinea in terms of population. Imagine if our entire foreign policy was structured around Papua New Guinea. And then the media told us, no, Papua New Guinea has no extra influence over the US. And then imagine we spent $8 trillion attacking the 7 islands around Papua New Guinea. And then the press said, no, you're a Papua New Guineaist.
Okay, but
I mean, like this is,
to be fair,
they're comical, man.
You could make a better argument for Papua New Guinea than you can for Israel. At least with Papua New Guinea, like their coffee is lit. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do we get from Israel other than bad intel, intentionally bad intel to drag us into wars?
We get wars, we get a robbery, etc. But you're not allowed to say any of that. But if you want, you can say anything you want about Papua New Guinea, because no one in the press cares about them or is bullied by them or works for them, and they haven't bribed all of our government officials. But hey, we're so sorry for noticing. I know that the genocide is no problem at all. People noticing the genocide is the real problem, according to American news media.
All right, well, why don't we move on to the next angle to this story? Let's talk about the fallout.
I spoke with President Trump for 20 minutes about the situation with Iran. He talked about Project Freedom and the US efforts to guide vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, issuing a new warning to the Iranian regime, saying if the Iranians try to target US ships in this area, they will be, quote, blown off the face of the earth.
They should do the smart thing, you know? They should do the smart thing, and because we don't want to go in and kill people, really don't. I don't want to. It's too tough.
It appears that President Trump is under the impression that his rhetoric could potentially pressure Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. I don't really understand what's going on here. Now, to be fair, Trump speaks from both sides of his mouth. He talks about how he's going to obliterate Iran, and then he turns around and says that they're making progress with peace negotiations. In that last clip that you watched, he is asking Iran to do the right thing, and Iran has done the right thing on multiple occasions, including offering a proposal to the US that would end their uranium enrichment program, which is what Trump purports to care so much about. Yet we are still involved in this war. The Iran war has officially passed the 2-month mark. And I'm gonna tell you how this is impacting Trump's approval rating and domestic politics here in the United States. But before I do, Cenk, what's your read?
Yeah, so one is I want you guys to stick around to see the reaction of Americans and how badly it's hurting us. And number two is the reaction of the Iranians. A quick preview of that is they're so confused. They're like, wait, I don't understand. Trump keeps saying things that aren't at all true. Like they're just kind of confused as to how to respond to this guy living in an alternate reality.
Exactly. Now, escalation is something that Trump purportedly does not want. He doesn't want to re-enter a hot war where the US is bombing Iran again. At least that is what is being alleged. Now, prior to Project Freedom's launch, and for those who are unfamiliar with that, Project Freedom is basically a mission where the US would help guide cargo vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, striking down Iranian drones and things like that to create a clear path. We don't have enough interceptors to be able to do that for a long period of time. So what's next? What's gonna happen? That's the real question. And despite all of the efforts at defending our involvement in this war, despite all the lies we've heard from the Trump administration, the American people ain't buying it. And it's reflected in Trump's approval ratings. So let's talk about the latest poll from Washington Post, ABC, Ipsos. This was released last Friday, and it revealed that a large majority of Americans disagree with Trump and his handling in Iran, handling of Iran. So the poll shows that 61% of respondents believe the use of military force against Iran was a mistake, with just 36% saying it was the right decision. Polling from Sunday night, so this is after Operation Freedom was, Project Freedom was launched. The poll didn't do much better for Trump, actually. Sunday's Washington Post, ABC News, Ipsos poll shows Trump underwater on several key issues. On the Iran war, 66% disapprove of his handling compared to 33% who approve. And it didn't end there. So 76% of Americans disapprove of how he has dealt with rising prices. Remember, the main reason why he got elected and actually achieved the popular vote in 2024 was because he kept driving home the point that he was gonna do something about affordability. He's done nothing about affordability other than make prices worse through entering this war at the behest of Israel. Roughly 72% disapprove of how he has handled inflation, and roughly 65% disapprove of how he has handled the economy overall. Now, Trump seems to realize that he's made a mistake by listening to the Israelis and going to war for them. But he's unable to do anything about it because, as you're about to hear from Tim Dillon, he's not a general, he's a politician.
You can feel it. You can feel that it's not going our way. You can feel that it's not working. You can feel that Trump wants out of it. You can feel it. This is not what he does. He's not a real fighter. He's like a talker. He's a casino kingpin. He's a reality star. He's very comfortable in that game. Late night, firing off tweets at Elizabeth Warren, that's his game. Talking with Mika and Joe, Morning Joe, he's comfortable doing that all day long. No, a rally? Forget it. Standing there for 3 hours talking extemporaneously off the cuff, he's all in. And that's what he does. This is not where he shines. And he feels uncomfortable. You can tell he's not happy about this because this is not what he does. This is also further reason you can feel that he was really pushed into this.
Tim Dillon is absolutely right. And honestly, his show has some of the best political commentary in the country. But I just want to turn to the real negative impact that Americans are already facing as a result of this war. Let's go to graphic 3 here. Farmer forced to raise prices as a result of rising costs. Quote, as much as we don't want to up our prices, we have to because of everything that's going on. Now, what's everything that's going on? The shortage in fertilizer, a third of which is transported through the Strait of Hormuz, which is blocked right now thanks to the war against Iran. Let's go to another headline here. Everything is pretty much high now, so you've got to kind of play Monopoly with a lot of stuff. Consumers are struggling with rising gas prices, again, caused by the war against Iran. CBS Chicago details how rising gas prices are causing issues for rideshare drivers and passengers. So guys, the domino effect of this war on our economy is becoming clearer by the day. Yet there is no indication that Trump is going to end this war, like really end this war, and take one of Iran's, offers, which he claims he wants to end their uranium enrichment program. They've offered to do that. So why didn't he take the deal? Because it was never about nuclear weapons, it was never about uranium, it was never about ballistic missiles. It was always about the country that dog walks our government, that's Israel, wanting regime change in Iran. That's what this is about.
Okay, so first on Tim Dillon. My way of saying that is Trump is kind of a slappy fighter. That's a word I made up. But so sometimes I'll see guys growing up, talking tough, and this, now we're gonna show you. And then they get into a fight, and I'm curious how it's gonna go, and then they do this. Or like, I'm like, that's not fighting, that's really sad. And that's Trump. Like, okay, so he talks a big game, like, but he's a coward internally and doesn't, like, yeah, it's easy to fight Rosie O'Donnell with mean tweets. But as the Iranians said, the battle is not won with tweets. It is won on the battlefield.
They're Indian? I didn't know they were Indian.
I can't do a Persian accent.
I do a pretty good Persian accent, but I'm not gonna.
We are waiting for you. Okay, anyway, so now let's get to the Iranians because so people go to them and ask them, okay, so is Donald Trump right? Is the war almost over? And so there's the parliament speaker, there's Arachi, who's their foreign minister, and a couple different people who comment. And they're perplexed. Their comments are hilarious because they're like, wait, Donald Trump says that the Strait of Hormuz is open, but it isn't open. We just hit a US warship trying to get through.
We are waiting for you.
So they're like, I don't know what you mean, right? And then he's like, he says, we're gonna go through your Strait of Hormuz in a humanitarian mission. They're like, we're in the middle of a war. What humanitarian mission are you talking about? No, it's okay. It's okay, we're going through because it's a humanitarian mission. They're like, we don't care what you call it. That's not okay, you know what? US is blocking Iranian ports right now. It's okay though, we're gonna go through in a humanitarian mission. That's not a thing, right? It's not a thing if they ask to do it or if we ask to do it.
Yeah.
And he says, no, now you're attacking us. You have invaded us. And they're like, what are you talking about, man? You're insane. And then they offered up this really good peace deal over the weekend. As Anna pointed out to you, the zero stockpile of enrichment. They would even take the enrichment out of their own country for several years. They're like, and then Trump comes back and goes, they won't end their enrichment program. They're like, we just offered it to you. Like, so at this point, they've kind of given up. They said there's zero trust. We can't figure out what the hell America even wants.
I mean, I just, it's so embarrassing. And look, on top of that, our alliances are falling apart. Our global trade alliances, which are incredibly important. We don't manufacture much here in the United States. They're falling apart. In fact, I was reading about Saudi Arabia specifically and how they're like, maybe after this war we make deals with Iran.
Yeah, of course. And BRICS.
Please make it stop and make it stop.
Later in the show, we're going to show you some clips of me on Shawn Ryan's show. One of the things that Shawn said he was most concerned about is they're going to go to BRICS instead of us.
The petrodollar
and the
destroyed.
Dollar is going to be gone. Dollar as the reserve currency of the world is going to be gone. And then our economy is going to be devastated. And we're inches away from that because everybody's like, America is an unstable, clownish country now that it's like Lenny from Mice and Men. Oh, we like rabbit. We're for rabbit and freedom. Oh no.
Totally.
Right?
That is such a great analogy. You're absolutely right. And look, does Trump care at all about his low approval rating? I don't know. Why don't we hear from the horse's mouth? Let's go to the last video.
They give me fake polls. They tell me about polls and this. It's interesting. They did a poll on the war with Iran, and they said only 32% of the people like it. Well, I don't like it, and I don't like war at all, but we're equipped better than it. We have the greatest military in the world. You saw what happened with Venezuela. You see what happens with everything. But they said 32% of the people are against President Trump. Well, when you explain it, like, is it okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon? It wouldn't be 32%. But even if you said that, there'd be a 32% because the polls are fake. I mean, they're totally fake.
They're not totally fake. And to answer his question, yes. Yes, I wish Pakistan would just give Iran a nuke so we could end this. Not because I think Iran is gonna use the nuke, because it'll end the BS cover story about how like, oh, we're so worried about Iran's nuclear capabilities in the future that don't exist at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, everything's a lie. So they always, and racism is baked into it. Hear me out on why. Because they say, well, if Iran ever gets a nuke, they'll launch it immediately. And they were willing to have everyone in Iran die from the counterstrike because they're all religious zealot savages, right? That's not remotely true. No, Pakistan has nukes, all these different countries have nukes and nobody uses them because they're not lunatics. But they make it seem like, oh, if they're Muslim, they're all lunatics and they would immediately use the bomb and they don't care about getting 90 million of their own people killed, right? None of that is true. By the way, the UAE got hit in this last barrage of last couple of days. Iran brags about who they hit and how they hit them all the time, right?
They sure do.
They make Lego videos about how they hit you. Instead of they're like, we didn't fire anything into UAE.
Gee, I wonder who did it.
Yeah. Oh, but mainstream press, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. It might be anti-Semitic to say that
it was Israel.
Yeah, it's almost certainly. All right. And by the way, early on in the fight, Iran's like, we hit the Gulf countries, we hit this, we hit that, and they're like, the bombs to Turkey and Cyprus, that wasn't us at all.
No, I don't believe for a second that was Iran.
But again, our press is like, Iran said that, but they're liars. Israel's telling the truth. Israel's the greatest country in the world. Anyway, last thing. So on the polls, 76% of Americans have a disapproval of Trump on rising prices. Guys, 76% disapproval on the economy is good night, Irene. I'm not sure I've ever seen a number that bad. So he can complain about the polls all day long, but there's a poll coming up in November. It's called the election, okay? And then we're gonna see what really happens. 66% of Americans disapprove of how he's handled the war, and 59% of Americans disapprove of how he's handled immigration. When he first started, that was his big win. Close the border, brag about it. Now 6 out of 10 Americans go, no, he's a total loser in every category, including immigration. We can't stand this guy. And especially on the prices, they're furious, as they should be. Gas has gone up 50%. He can lie about it day in and day out, but when we go to get our gas, we see with our own eyes that it's gone up 50%. and we're super mad about it. 42% of Americans have started driving less. 30% of Americans taking less vacations, and that list goes on and on and on. And every day this buffoon comes into their living room and lies to them and says, no, prices are lower and you guys love me. And now we're getting to a point where we're a little sick of hearing that. And it's going from annoyance, disapproval to anger. And so if he keeps going in this direction, none of this is going to end well for anyone.
All right, when we come back from the break, I think it's due time to talk about the latest out of Lebanon. So stick around, we'll give you those details when we return.
Obrador.
Hey guys, so that graphic is related to this. I'm gonna be in London at the beginning of next month on June 2nd. And so we're doing a giveaway for some tickets there for South by Southwest London. So if you want that, tyt.com/London. Everybody watching this is a member, so you guys get that special advantage, tyt.com/London, okay? Love to see you guys there. All right, now let's go to comments on YouTube member section. SidLife365 says, Trump sounds like he's being directed by Netanyahu. Well, there's a very good reason why he sounds that way, because he is. Stoner Wolf says, the arrogance of this administration is pathetic. Yeah, that's also very true. Let's go to Super Chat. Mohit Baki says, lefties think Tucker equals Massey. No one's angry at Roe for working with Massey, and Roe isn't for Massey's economic agenda. Stop the infighting about Tucker and Israel and Iran, collaborate on agreements, then argue on the 90% of other issues. Mohit, that's the most obvious thing in the world, but some people say no, we will reject allies. It's not like it's a big deal. It's just war and genocide and the destruction of our economy and the control of our government by another country. Since that's not that important, I'm gonna choose to focus on other issues and division instead. Okay, that's an interesting choice. Pakistani American Huck Sentinel says, Virginia gas is reaching $5. With this rate, I'll need a horse wagon. Marjorie's space lasers theory was wrong at that time, but with these prices, I'd welcome a beam to toast my bagel. And he says, oh.
Obrador.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. More news.
Well, the devastation in the Middle East isn't just happening against the Iranians, as we know. The Israelis have decided to invade Lebanon and attempt to annex the southern portion of it, and I want to give you some updates on that.
Civilian home behind me was completely destroyed in the airstrike, and the building next door was also heavily damaged. Yesterday, the Israeli army attacked 23 towns with airstrikes and 19 towns with artillery shelling, including the town of Kafr, which isn't too far from here. And in that artillery shelling attack, 2 Lebanese army soldiers were wounded and brought to the hospital. And I just want to remind you that destroying is a war crime.
But it's okay when war crimes are committed by Israel, there are no consequences. And the UN Security Council, due to veto power afforded to its members, is able to accomplish absolutely nothing. But nonetheless, that was journalist Courtney Bonneau reporting from Deir Kanoun in southern Lebanon, where Israel continues to carry out what they refer to as the Gaza method. And if you're wondering what that is, just take a look at Gaza, completely leveled. That's what they're planning on doing and have been doing in southern Lebanon. That method includes displacing millions of civilians, leveling their homes, and stealing their land. Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so what we're gonna show you here is some shocking acts of terrorism. Big Brother with drones. You please watch it because it's important for you to know what's actually happening on the ground. But perhaps most importantly, the second part is about how they're planning to bring it here to America. All right, Anna, go ahead.
So as the New York Times, a Zionist rag, shockingly reported the other day, and I say shocking because typically they try to provide cover for this type of behavior. They usually don't want to draw attention to it. But in this case, they did some good reporting. Israel has raised border villages as part of an effort to lay the groundwork for a larger occupation. They're just gonna steal the land, okay? The approach, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, said was modeled on tactics the military used in Gaza, genocide. It's just called genocide. They could just say that, but of course they won't. Instead, they describe it as where the Israeli military reduced entire neighborhoods, buildings, and streets to rubble as part of their genocidal operations in Gaza that they're now utilizing in southern Lebanon. Israel has announced that they do plan to occupy Lebanese land 7 miles into Lebanon's territory. And there have been some evacuation notices for Lebanese villages north of the Litani River. So I think they're gonna go beyond southern Lebanon. I wanna be very clear about that, just based on the evacuations that they've already announced. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, so I want you to understand there's 3 possibilities. There's a 7-mile so-called buffer that includes extension into Lebanese water where there's conveniently a Lebanese gas field, and Israel would then steal that gas field that's worth at least $40 billion. So this is a lot about theft, but then there's a second number, which is all the way to the Litani River, which is much longer than 7 miles. And now Israel's talking about, you know what? I don't know why we settled at just the Litani River. Why don't we go north of the Litani River? Because it doesn't look like anyone in the world is gonna stop us from taking more and more land.
The Greater Israel Project and that I believe that's what Israel is pursuing. It indicates that they take the entirety of Lebanon.
Well, eventually, of course. And in fact, Bezalel
Smotrich, yeah.
Yeah, Smotrich is on tape talking about, we're gonna just do it one at a time, right? And we're gonna slowly take all of that land because it belongs to us. God gave it to us. And so he really believes that. He's a religious fundamentalist, and so does most of the Israeli cabinet. And they believe that non-Israelis are cattle. So it's not a big deal to murder them and take their land. In fact, God wants you to murder them and take their land.
Look at Cenk being anti-Semitic again by simply repeating what Israeli officials are saying. Anyway, so widespread demolitions have flattened expanses of at least 24 towns and villages, according to the New York Times. Look at that, reporting the truth. Nice, okay. Now, with damage to government offices as well as civilian infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, and mosques. War crimes upon war crimes upon war crimes, but who cares? Not a big deal. The US should pay for it, and we have been paying for it. This is what we have blood on our hands over. Giving Israel everything they could possibly want to carry out these atrocities and these war crimes. So I want to show you examples of villages that have been destroyed. So let's take a look at graphic 3 here. So at the top, you see what these specific villages look like on March 5th before they were bombed to smithereens by the Israelis, leveled by the Israelis. The bottom 3 show the same villages after they've been leveled. There's other examples. Let's take a look at the next one. So here are 6 other villages and what they looked like on March 5th. Let's go to the next graphic. That's what they look like after all the bombing took place following March 2nd. The IDF's March 2nd invasion into southern Lebanon. So they're just destroying entire villages. And let me ask you guys something. Whether you're talking about Gaza or southern Lebanon, is anyone really gonna try to make the argument that Israel is targeting Hezbollah and Hamas? So you're just telling me that Hamas was in every single building in Gaza and so they had to level Gaza? Like the country that supposedly has the best intelligence in the world. I mean, Mossad is even better than the CIA with their intelligence gathering. They're unable to do targeted strikes against the people that they're allegedly going after? Please, please. The thing that really gets to me, Cenk, number 1, of course, is genocide and slaughter of innocent people and land theft. But number 2 is the fact that they continue to insult our intelligence.
Yeah, so And they have their partner here in US media. I thought this New York Times piece was actually not that bad.
No, it was great. It was actually a great piece. I'm just very salty with the New York Times, especially after Lulu Garcia Navarro admitted that she was the former Israel-Palestine correspondent and then proceeded to excoriate Tucker Carlson for asking questions about Israel's intentions.
Yeah, so in this piece, they at least showed the wide-scale destruction. They talked about how they're reducing entire neighborhoods to rubble, as you quoted, and that they're going to do a larger occupation. Now, but it's still, they never crossed the threshold, right? Only dirty Arabs and Muslims are terrorists. When Israel does war crimes and genocide and targets civilians on purpose, they're never, ever called terrorists. That you would be fired instantly from the New York Times if you accurately use the word terrorist in a balanced way for both sides. That's a fireable offense. You can't ever use naughty language with the Israelis. You have to only use it for dirty Muslims. You can call anything you want because New York Times editors and publishers hate Muslims and think that it's okay to murder them. So, and they've shown that through decades of coverage and through smearing them so that it makes it easier for Israel to murder them and for America to finance their murder.
Yeah. Let me just be very clear about something, okay? Our corporate media is going to provide cover for Israel and Israel firsters within our own borders, no matter what, no matter who the victims are. So we have a sitting member of the United States Congress going on an interview and saying out loud, we don't want Armenians serving in Congress. That was Representative Randy Fine, who happens to have an Armenian running against him for the Florida seat that he's currently occupying. Where's the New York Times? Armenians are Christians, overwhelmingly. Who cares? Who cares if they're Christians? Who cares if they're Muslims? Are they Israelis? Are they pro-Israel Jews?
If they're not, then they're irrelevant. Guys, this is inarguable. They censured Ilhan Omar because she said about lobbyists, it's all about the Benjamin.
And it is all about the Benjamin.
And she's 100% correct about that. And so that is like the most inoffensive thing I've ever heard for lobbyists. It's obviously about the money. And they're like, yeah, but Benjamin Netanyahu, but at Israel, but to shut the F up. You're never allowed to criticize Israeli lobbyists. Now, meanwhile, Randy Fine said we should murder every single person in Gaza, no censure. Okay, he said we should nuke them and we should starve them to death. I mean, that's a Nazi-like statement. Starve 2 million people to death.
Right.
No censure, no talk of censure. No one in media asked for a censure. Now he says Armenian Christians should not be allowed to run for office. Why? No censure, no talk of censure, no talk of, hey, if you talk to Randy Fine, then you should be canceled. No one is allowed to talk to Randy Fine, none of that. So it is indisputable that American media are sellouts who work for Israel and try to bully Americans into compliance with a foreign government while pretending to be our media.
Exactly, so the point is Israel reigns supreme. And it doesn't matter what your religion is. If you are not adequately supportive of Israel, you're the problem, you're the enemy, according to our corporate media. Now, going back to what's going down in Lebanon, it's important to understand the damage that Israel had already done to Lebanon previously was so severe that Lebanon didn't even have an opportunity to recover. So for instance, many towns were already devastated during the Israel-Hezbollah war in 2024. More than 10,000 structures, including homes, mosques, and parks, were damaged or destroyed in at least 26 municipalities, and that's according to Amnesty International.
They're obvious terrorists, there's no dispute about it. So, but under penalty of law, we can't find a single mainstream media reporter or cable anchor to say they're obviously terrorists. Does the word terrorist have any meaning? No. Everybody bow your head to Israel. Go ahead.
Now,
LA Times story is super important.
Yes, we're gonna get to that. Give me a second. So just to give you an update on the death toll, and this is the death toll based on the hostility, the war that started on March 2nd, okay? So since March 2nd, at least 2,702 people have been killed and 8,311 people wounded in Lebanon during the current war, according to the health ministry in Beirut. And the attacks continue. 17 Israeli soldiers have been killed in that same time frame. And the New York Times is confirming, and I wanna just say it again, that Israel has killed journalists and medical workers in Lebanon, just as they did in Gaza, destroyed civilian infrastructure, including bridges and gas stations, and displaced more than 1 million people. And in regard to the finance minister of Israel, Bezalel Smotrich, in a recent interview, he was talking about his son, who apparently was in southern Lebanon with the IDF. He was severely injured, and apparently he's in the hospital recovering, but this is what Smotrich said of his son. My son keeps asking me not to finish the work and leave him more to do, meaning in southern Lebanon, devastate southern Lebanon further. I tell him, don't worry, there will be enough for everyone. These people are sick. They're sick.
So the terrorists can't wait to get back onto the so-called battlefield where they just murder innocent civilians and call it a battle. And then they cry about their 17 soldiers killed while invading Lebanon.
Yeah.
They're not civilians, they're soldiers who came to murder the civilians and destroy their homes. And then they tape themselves robbing all the homes before they destroyed them. And we're supposed to have sympathy for the terrorists? No, I have no sympathy for Israeli terrorists.
When we come back from the break, we're gonna get into how AI is being tested and utilized in Lebanon as we speak. We'll talk about how inaccurate it tends to be and how innocent people keep getting killed, but oh well, Israel's doing it, so it's totally fine. We'll be right back.
Hey Andrew, what's up?
Hey Cenk, you ready to make the switch?
Yeah, I guess.
I promise it's easy, universal, basic, and you get income.
Yeah, you keep saying that. But you sure I'm gonna have coverage?
Of course you will. You think I would have bad service? I'm Andrew Yang, of course I have good service.
All right, let's try it. But I'm so bad at tech. So, wait, should I do this thing of the hashtag business? Andrew, you're still on, right?
Yep.
Oh, I see it. No, wait, I don't see. Oh yeah, I do see it. Here we go.
I actually did not realize that you'd be searching in real time, but I love it.
How much do people actually normally say?
Yeah, the average American is gonna save between $500 and $1,000 a year on Noble.
Yeah, no, you know what I'm gonna do, Andrew? Are you ready to become a Noble member? The 2 buttons are do it and go back. There's no going back, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Here we go, Noble Mobile.
Oh my gosh, I just called you and are you now on Noble and not Verizon?
Why didn't you tell me it was gonna be super easy?
I know, man. Now you just stay away from your phone and watch the money roll in.
I can do that, here you go, phone, yeah.
What the
Cenk, you still there?
Andrew? Oh, well, at least I got Noble Mobile.
It was really just one take. The whole thing is wild.
It's in my shoes. It's in my shoes.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on. channel, we're getting that message out.
Cenk and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning. They seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
I love Mexican people.
Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Bart, thank you for reminding me. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. The revenge of the 5th, is that what we call May 5th these days? I know. So Anthony Komatz, thank you for sending in 50 memberships on YouTube. You're awesome, brother. Way to look out for everyone else. All right, Anna.
All right, so the IDF is using artificial intelligence to carry out its rampage in Lebanon. Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so it's harrowing, this level of terrorism and Big Brother that Israel and Palantir invented. But the most harrowing part is that they're planning to bring it here to America. So hear the story.
So the most important takeaway here is to understand that AI is being utilized to carry out strikes that oftentimes end up killing civilians because the technology isn't perfect, it makes mistakes, and despite its mistakes, the IDF keeps using it. So for the AI system to work, the Israelis need data. So in order to get that data, the IDF siphons it from the smartphones of Lebanese citizens, security cameras, traffic cameras, Wi-Fi signals, drones, and government databases along with social media. So this so-called intelligence gathering has been taking place for years. The IDF utilizes that data for an algorithm to create a threat profile of people currently living in Lebanon. In other words, whether or not a person is, in the case of Israel, determining whether or not an individual is a member of Hezbollah, which is their whole cover story for being in southern Lebanon to begin with. So Palantir's Maven then provides at least part of the technology that helps the IDF sift through all of this data that they've collected to then turn it into a threat profile. So be very clear about this. Palantir has been profiting off of these atrocities, has been profiting off of war. This is what they love, this is what they do. Now, the algorithm picks up on people's proximity to villages that largely support Hezbollah, which, despite what you might have heard about Hezbollah here in US media, is a legitimate established political group and party in southern Lebanon. They have a stronghold in southern Lebanon. The algorithm also picks up on people's day-to-day routines and how it changes over time, as well as whether or not people have known family members in Hezbollah. But they're often wrong because AI is not perfect, it makes mistakes. In fact, one AI specialist told the LA Times, which reported this story, that these systems use data, not logic, to determine if someone is dangerous. And if that information is flawed, then it would keep repeating the same mistakes, but faster and with more confidence, based on the flawed data. And that it creates this illusion of certainty, and that's dangerous because it turns correlation into action, meaning strikes, bombings, things like that, without having the necessary context. And these types of technologies tend to make their way here to the United States, where they're often utilized by local law enforcement. And that's something you should be concerned about, Cenk.
Yeah, so guys, there was a couple of the parts of this story that are just shocking to the core. So first off, this guy that they tracked said there was basically a drone flying above him at almost all times. So they tracked his face, etc., and they know what his story is. And his story is actually that he's a little bit older now. This particular guy that LA Times tracked in this story. And so he's retired and he helps people with their destroyed homes and buildings, and he helps clear that out. But the AI algorithm has said, well, it doesn't matter. He has some connection to Hezbollah. And so if he has any connection to Hezbollah, according to our algorithm, he should be murdered, okay? And so this is how the AI program is picking out targets. And then at the end, he gets a call from the Israelis in broken Arabic, and they ask him, would you like to die alone or with your entire family? And so he says alone and hangs up and starts walking out of the house. And his wife is trying to stop him, his family's trying to stop him, but he knows if he doesn't get out of the house, the Israeli terrorists are going to murder his entire family. Or that's at least what he suspects. So he gets in his car, starts driving, and within 30 seconds, boom, a bomb murders him. He was right. If he had stayed in the house, the Israelis would have killed his children, his wife, and everyone else in the house. They have a program also related to this same type of AI that they used in Gaza called Where's Daddy? And so same type of AI to track, well, we think it came from that cell phone tower. We think it came from a related cell phone, and that person is connected to someone else who might be connected to Hamas. Good enough. Because Israel's looking to kill as many people as possible. They just need the smallest thread connecting them to Hamas or Hezbollah. 6 degrees of Hamas is what they played in Gaza, and now they're doing that in Lebanon with Hezbollah. So they wait for that person that AI is selected to come home in Gaza, and then they kill his entire family. They could have killed him earlier, but it's called Where's Daddy because they want that person to go home and murder his children along with him.
Yeah, most moral army, right?
Yeah, so if you know those, if you don't know those things, I get it. And mainstream media normally does an excellent job, an overwhelming job of keeping those facts from you, because they wouldn't want you to, turn against their beloved Israel, who they serve loyally. Now, in this case, LA Times, terrific story. And so I appreciate it. Whenever anybody in corporate media does a good job, we give them credit. So thank you for bringing us this story. And of course, one of the most troubling parts is that's Palantir. Larry Ellison has bragged about how they're going to bring that kind of surveillance here. So, and they tell us, no, because of our AI systems, our algorithms will find anyone who is doing something that the Israeli government thinks is wrong, and then God help you.
And what's concerning is that we have a government that has no interest in representing our best interests at all, whether it has to do with foreign policy or domestic policy. Things like, regulation when it comes to emerging technological advancements like AI. And in this next clip, you're gonna hear Joe Lonsdale, who loves AI, is involved in the development of AI, doesn't want regulations though, and gives you a sense of why our government behaves the way it does. Let's take a look.
We're all trying to figure out what this could look like. Is there ultimately going to be an FDA for AI models? And as a, is that a good thing or a bad thing for somebody who's thinking the way you do?
Listen, the FDA has killed millions of people. Let's be totally clear, right? So that there's
killed.
It has literally led to the deaths of millions of people. There probably should be some national agreement on regulation on new powerful models. It should be as small and as narrow as possible. You should not have the same bureaucracy. You should make sure the government from the start has metrics on the speed at which it has to go and the transparency, because you're gonna have cronyism. You're gonna have the big guys capture it, you're gonna slow it down. Pharma loves the FDA against biotech. It makes it too expensive for us to build our own pharma companies. We have to sell to them. This is what the big guys want.
Oh wow, the co-founder of Palantir wants as little regulation as possible when it comes to systems that are currently being utilized in foreign countries to target and kill people, oftentimes civilians and their entire families. Great.
So guys, we could say don't tread on me, and we could have our AK-47 in the woods and stuff, but once they track you, it's over. They're just gonna kill you with a drone. So the surveillance state is definitely coming here. Like, will they start murdering people in the streets? Certainly not in day one or year one, but will they start tracking all of us and start making lists, and dubious lists, because it's not they. They say in the LA Times article, in the past, this would have taken thousands of man hours and research, and they would have bothered to try to get it right. Now they don't really care too much if it's right or wrong, and it's done in seconds. So this level of big brother is definitely headed in our direction. And guess who's paying all of our politicians? Not just Israel. All the lobbies do, including Palantir, including AI, including the tech bros. And our politicians are the scum of the earth. They're the least moral people in the country. They will sell you out in a flat second for money from a donor, any donor. So we're all screwed unless we change the system immediately. You've got to get the money out. If you don't get money out of politics, then these guys are just gonna buy all of our corrupt politicians, and we're gonna live under this terroristic surveillance state very soon.
Well, stick around because you're about to get a mega block where Cenk and Shawn Ryan talk about money and politics. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go to members on TYT.com. Mongoose Dragon says, Alex Karp and Larry Ellison are gonna make us behave. Well, that's what they want, yeah. Be good little boys and girls, shut up, give me your money, and I'm gonna give it to Israel, otherwise, Big Brother's coming for you. Nerd Ferguson says, gas has gone up by 50%, but our drug prices have dropped by 800, 900, 500, 700%. Of course, he's joking there, referring to insane, ludicrous, nonsensical things that Trump says. Iowa Gal says, I have to agree with Anna. Ted Cruz is just disgusting. He makes my skin crawl too. That's kind of universal. That's the one thing all Americans agree on. The fact that he keeps winning elections in Texas, dude, Texas, do better, okay? Wang Jun said, sounds like anti-German sentiment. Sorry, anti-Semitism. If the New York Times was as loyal to Germany as they are to Israel today, they would have definitely said that saying the Germans were killing people in concentration camps was a trope. Oh yeah, you're calling the Germans barbarians like the Romans did. It's an old trope of the poor Germans. You shouldn't criticize what the Germans are doing. You should criticize the people who've offended the German feelings. If they were as loyal as they are to Israel now, they definitely would have said that. They definitely would have protected the Holocaust, and they would have said, don't care about the victims. You should only care about the Germans and their very, very sensitive feelings. Boomer Dragon Cat says, Mossad must be exceptional to have held something over the heads of every last president for 40 years. My original question of why has no answer. Why do we bow to Israel? No, you can't. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Big Stan, thank you for gifting a membership. I was just reading a comment during the break from one of our members on our website, TYT.com. And Kat, yeah, no, I believe that Israel has had blackmail over almost all of our presidents in the last 40 years. And that's certainly a fair question to ask, unless you're a reporter in this country, in which case, don't ask any questions. That's a conspiracy theory. Shut up, you better not say anything about Israel. Okay, so that's our press. Pathetic dogs, servants of a foreign government. Anna, back to you.
All right, let's get to our next story.
We'll get to the hope. I hope you have some hope.
Yeah.
The most challenging thing is, in my opinion, is just getting the people to come together on any issue, which was what we've been talking about.
So the patriots on the left and the patriots on the right have to unite. Political spectrum, politics as usual. Let's win on these massive issues, these major issues, so we regain our freedom.
Cenk had a nearly 3-hour-long conversation with Shawn Ryan on his podcast. He's a former Navy SEAL and not on the left. However, they had a lengthy discussion about how the left and the right can unite to change our political system because it's not representing any of us. Cenk, your 2 cents.
So Shawn had a powerful analogy in that interview. He talked about how our house is on fire, and we can't really talk about anything else until we put out the fire. I couldn't agree more with that. If you say that we should not unite to get money out of politics, that is a very curious position. So let's dive into the interview and see what we find.
Well, I mean, look, with any long form conversation, Cenk is definitely going to talk about money in politics, and you're going to get a lot of that in this discussion with Shawn Ryan. Here's a little taste.
Every time mainstream media, when they do that unity, they celebrate, oh, bipartisan unity, right? And what do they split you on? Things that you actually agree on. So an example I use is paid family leave. So mom's getting 12 weeks off after they have a baby. Well, 84%, where's the question? We can't get it passed. Why can't we get it passed? Because they're all full of shit. They all work for their donors. Most of the donors are corporate, but now, as we know, famously, there's one foreign government that is, in the last cycle, the biggest donor of all, and that's Israel. And so when you lose your sovereignty to a corporation, that's already a big problem. But when you lose it to a foreign government, that's a problem that I cannot accept.
Yeah, it definitely seems like we are now a proxy.
Yeah.
The United States seems like it is now a proxy. And that, to me, is terrifying.
Yeah, it's interesting because we knew that our government was occupied by moneyed interests. But once you realize just how much sway a foreign country has over your government, to the point where your government will work against the American people at the behest of that foreign government, you got to do what it takes to change that system. And so, oh no, you're talking to a right winger. Who cares? We live under the same government, under the same political system, and it needs to change. It's not serving anybody.
Look, guys, I'm super encouraged by a development here, both on Shawn's show and on Tucker Carlson's show when I talk to him, and almost every show I go on now. We're not leaving it at just Israel. It's because Israel is not the original problem. Israel is a consequence of the original problem. The original problem is money in politics. Once you allow for bribery, everyone will bribe your politicians. So, and now when I talk about that, that's what I refer to as the Great Awakening. And people are beginning to go, oh, right, wait, why can't we negotiate drug prices? That's super weird, right? That's certainly not a free market. That doesn't make any sense at all. So, the reason we need the Great Awakening and all of us noticing what's happening here is because almost all of national media works to make sure that you don't notice and that you stay asleep. So they never talk about the donor class and their effect on all of this legislation, and yes, including Israel. And the reason why Israel wakes us up clearer is because it's inexcusable to have a foreign government in charge of our government. And everyone knows that. And they can't lie their way out of it. We can now all see it. So their lies become even more glaring. And then you begin to realize, oh, they're also lying about big pharma and big oil and the defense contractors, and how all of our politicians are not at all honest. They're the most immoral people in the country, and they sell us out to any donor that walks by.
What I thought was interesting in regard to the reaction or response to your appearance on Shawn Ryan's podcast is that, a few days prior to him dropping the entire episode, he promoted it with a short clip. And the people attacking you, I mean, I'm sure there were people on the left attacking you. I didn't see much of it, to be fair. Most of the attacks, though, came from neoconservatives, the neocons. And they were livid that Shawn Ryan would have you on his podcast, because nothing scares the neocons more, nothing angers them, nothing makes them quake in their boots more than the left and the right coming together and acknowledging what the real problem is, that the corruption in our political system needs to stop, that the control that a foreign country has over our government needs to end.
Yeah, so look, guys, it's interesting because if you're on the left, certainly if you're a progressive, money in politics has been the #1 issue. We all recognize it's the #1 issue. We should be proud that we're the side that has been emphasizing that for decades, right? Now, these guys, they're not faking it. When they disagree with us, they're not unclear about it. They're super clear about
Very
it,
clear,
right?
yeah.
So they're saying you guys are right. Money in politics is the cancer, and we've got to end. It turns out that's the corruption. That's the swamp. Yes, that's what we've been waiting for all this time. So what's interesting is that on the right, the Trump loyalists go, no way, no. Well, I think you thought you guys wanted to drain the swamp, right?
They're not even Trump loyalists. Right now, the MAGA base consists of the neocons, many of whom were never Trumpers earlier.
Yeah, no, it's a mix because there's Trump loyalists who watch Fox News who are older. So it's a combination of the neocons, et cetera. On the left, the people opposing unity are also, uniparty establishment Democrats, et cetera, but also some on the, I don't know what part of the political spectrum they're on anymore, that are say, no, I'm so partisan, I don't even want to get money out of politics if it means I have to lower myself to talk to Shawn Ryan, Tucker Carlson, et cetera. And I think that's deeply selfish, and I think that misses the point, and you can't get money out of politics without an amendment. And an amendment needs 34 states. So we literally cannot do it without the right wing and the left wing joining forces. If you're opposed to that, you're saying let's stay in corruption forever.
Right, I mean, look, I think that there are people who are doing okay, even in a corrupt political system. They might be affluent, they might come from money, whatever it is. And so politics for them, and I'm not saying this is the case for everyone who's affluent, please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But for those who think, no, my personal political branding and purity is more important than actually accomplishing what we need to get accomplished to fix our system. The reason why they take it that way is because the political system's been working out okay for them, okay? They
don't need a lot of change.
Yeah,
they don't want a constitutional amendment or a constitutional convention. And so, sorry, you need 34 states to propose on. You need 38 states to ratify it. You can't possibly get there on just Democrats or just Republicans.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you're not for unifying on money in politics, you're literally saying, I'm totally fine with this broken system.
So let's talk about how that broken system has been able to continue. When you have a divided electorate, when the American people have bought into the toxicity that's thrown at us again and again by our politicians and the media that provides cover for them, you get manufactured culture wars, you get division. We're too busy fighting each other to look up. Take a look.
Wait a minute. So everyone on the right wing has to agree to 100% of this agenda, and everyone on the left wing has to agree to 100% of this agenda. Well, which robot would agree with 100% of any agenda? No, we're all human beings. We have different opinions, right? So,
isn't it like 44% is the silent majority?
Yeah, and now independents are larger than both Republicans and the Democrats. So when they try to get you to follow any ideology 100%, you know it's a trap. You know that it's a thing that's meant to get you to fight the other side and to divide the country. Because once the country is divided among Republicans and Democrats, but the donors are funding both, it's perfect. The guys with all the money, the donor class, that's who's rigging the rules. That's who's got the power, and they love dividing us. So don't fall into the trap. Make sure that on the key issues, war, foreign governments, corruption, we stay united as a country and we protect that flag.
You just said it, that the independent voting bloc, the silent majority, outnumbers the Democrats and the Republicans. I mean, right there, the answer lies within that. There's the data. That's what we need. That's how we do it.
So just to put actual numbers behind that, a January Gallup poll found that 45%, a new high of 45% in the US identify as political independents.
Yeah, and notice, by the way, that you almost never hear about them in the press. Isn't that weird? Like that they're larger than the Republicans and Democrats. I hear about the Republicans and Democrats nonstop. Nonstop. What do Republican voters think? What do Democratic voters think? Like, independents are a ghost, because if you began to realize that most of the country at this point is independents, then it makes it harder for everyone to fight.
That's a really great point.
Right? Yeah. So they've got to get them to fight. And if people realize, hey, wait, a lot of us are in the middle and we believe in some of this and some of that. So that the point I was making about the 100%. But on the other hand, if you get people to believe that you have to believe in this ideology without any deviation, or this ideology, well, that's so rigid you can't ever come to a compromise.
Exactly.
You're forced to fight.
That's exactly right.
And independents are breaking that myth, and that's why mainstream media hates them.
So Shawn Ryan had some interesting things to say about what actually does unite the American people. And he noticed something that I think you and I noticed a long time ago. And I think it's the one silver lining in the hellscape that we exist in. So let's take a look at what Shawn had to say and we'll discuss it.
I think more people are becoming politically homeless, and I think we're all kind of seeing that. I think the biggest thing on the 2028 ticket will be Israel, but and it's something that a lot of people are uniting on. AIPAC, their influence, the Iran war, Gaza, now Turkey, Lebanon. If we want any change at all, we're going to have to come together, because we can bat back and forth like abortion and trans issues and taxes. I mean, those issues are just going to be batted back and forth until the end of time. You know, abortion's illegal, abortion's legal, whatever. It's never going to end. And they use that to divide us, the race. I think more people are starting to look past that. I think the race card was overplayed a lot, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people are seeing that and realize maybe it wasn't as bad as everybody made it out to be. And I think that's happening with a lot of issues. And that is giving me hope. Hey, we were lied to. This is over embellished, or some things weren't embellished enough. And people are coming together, and everybody's looking, like, not everybody, but a lot of people are looking for the real solution.
Cenk, so the full episode dropped yesterday, and I hadn't watched it until last night. And that part with Shawn reminded me of something I said on The Tea, which is a podcast out of the UK. And so I just want to quickly show that part of it, and then we'll discuss it, because I think he's on point. Take a look. Identitarianism and the differences in race, the differences in gender, the differences in all of these things that are immutable and we can't change. And honestly, the way that it was talked about pit everyone against each other. So you don't have a coalition even on the left. You have people who are obsessed with their own personal identity more than anything else. So yes, racism does exist. That does need to be at the intersection of the class battle. Anyone who denies that is just living in a fantasy world. However, when you, and this has been a really big problem, when you uplift or you prioritize how different and fractured we are from one another, when your politics becomes about not class war, but your own personal grievances, all you're gonna do is cause fights, and that's what you see on the left constantly. Everyone's fighting each other, broken coalitions, fracturing, and basically where we're at today, which is nowhere. We have Trump, a complete buffoon, elected for the second time, destroying not just our country, but the globe as we speak. So it's not to say that, these issues of hatred, bigotry don't exist. They do exist. The question is, do you allow these debates about our personal identity to fracture coalitions and be like front and center of every discussion that you have? Because I think that framing, I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional. Okay, I have my own theories, but I won't get into that. I mean, think about 2020 through 2023. The left was constantly fighting each other. Coalitions were constantly being broken and fractured over identity or identitarian issues. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's I hate it, and I don't hate it just from the left or the right. So if the left overfocus on it, I think to a point of division, I'm worried that they do. But does the right overfocus on it? Of course they do. Yes. Right. So we're not saying just to one side or the other. We're saying to both sides. And the right wing, if you're worried about left wing's identity politics, well, brother, then you can't do your own identity politics. Right? Exactly. Okay, so now, but the good news is the Shawn Ryans and the Tucker Carlsons of the world are basically saying truce. Yes, okay. Now you could say I don't believe him, whatever, you could do, have all your skepticism, but they're telling their millions of followers truce. Let's not go get into that crap. And then sometimes people say, wow, you have the privilege of being able to say that because you're not this or that. Brother, I come from a Muslim background, right? And so there's been nothing but massive anti-Muslim propaganda and hatred my entire lifetime growing up. And so would I work with someone who is anti-Muslim to get money out of politics? Of course I would. First of all, as a person who grew up Muslim, you don't have a choice anyway. If you were gonna find coalitions of only people who didn't hate Muslims, your coalition have been 13 people in some years, right? So like, I feel like some people have privilege that they're so unused to criticism, right? And unused to having to get past those obstacles that they feel like, well, you've hurt my feelings slightly, so that's it, I'm out. No, we don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
Let's go make deals on the most important things and put out the fire in our house.
I totally agree. All right, when we come back from the break, we'll talk a little bit about this explosive report regarding the mistreatment and abuse of people being held in these ICE facilities. And wait till you hear what Shawn Ryan had to say about the fatal shooting of Renee Good. Honestly, I was surprised by it. We'll be right back.
All right, back. TYT.com members, Eclectic writes in, libs to the left of me, MAGA to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with 45% of you. It's a good one. Chef Topher says, after watching the Noble mobile commercial featuring Cenk a few times, I would like to give a shout out to how far his acting abilities have come since his role as sleazy hotel clerk in the movie Hopeless. Huzzah, Mr. Uygur. Thank you, I appreciate it. Anna and I were both in that Andrew Napier production. Pseudo Dragon says, the media didn't know about the Holocaust in World War II, or at least not the scale and depravity of it. This is so much worse. Oh, that's a great point. Back then, it was really hard to get the information. Here, the media looks at it and goes, oh yeah, they've murdered 23,000 kids on tape. I saw it, I don't care about that at all. In fact, if I report on it, some people will be offended. The genociders will be offended, so I won't report on it. All right, Jenks Left Tricep Fury says, when will the 1/3 of the country that still support this buffoon get sick of the show and go somewhere else to be entertained? Well, close. He's got almost no one left. Let's go to Twitch. Texas Socialist says, my favorite thing Mamdani ever said in an interview was that if you agree with him 100%, that's not a good thing, that's a cult. You're here, brother. Gal for 71 says, tomorrow is Revenge of the 5th, Cenk. After all the good Mexican food and beer, your body will take revenge on you tomorrow. LOL, that's funny, I hadn't heard that. Microgram says they've been using Gaza as a live weapons testing range, so it's so sadistic, it's almost unbelievable, but it's the IDF after all. What do you mean? Our media tells us they're the most moral army in the world. We'll be back. Back on TYT, the online news network. Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also, Gabney1211, thank you for gifting 5 memberships on YouTube. We really appreciate you. Very sweet of you. All right, now we'll do a return of favor for you guys. If you're paying over $50, I think if you're paying over $30, you're needlessly throwing money down the drain for your cell phone service. Noble Mobile works on the T-Mobile service area now, ranked #1 in a lot of surveys. It works perfectly for me everywhere I've gone. Nothing on your phone changes. So the most you could pay is $50, but they give you a lot of cash back if you don't use your data. So that's why I pay in the 30s. And so tyt.com/switch. And if you switch now, you get another $40 off your first month. So go jump on it right now, tyt.com/switch. Save yourself a lot of money. All right, Anna.
Get a load of this.
That first tape where, what was there, like 6 guys? That's 6 guys in ski masks surrounding an American, a single American woman in a vehicle. What the would anybody have done? Yeah. If I was sitting in a car as a former SEAL and CIA guy, and 6 guys came up with ski masks surrounding my car, telling me to get the out, I'd do the same damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, all she was doing was driving away, and they shot her in the head.
That's what I'm saying. Made it sound like she was trying to run him over.
Thank God. Thank God. That was Shawn Ryan, former Navy SEAL, conservative, right-winger, speaking out against ICE and the fatal shooting of Renee Good in Minnesota. But I wouldn't have guessed that, because even I have still continued to buy into summaries of what the right wing is, right? Summaries of what these people believe, as opposed to giving them a chance to explain what they actually believe. That was amazing.
Yeah, so there's two things about that real quick, and then we'll tell you some of the latest abuses of ICE, which is that, look, what the media has done in the past, and we've been a little bit guilty of this as well back in the day, which is you take the most extreme person on the left and you say they represent the entire left. Most extreme person on the right, they represent the whole right. We got into that because it seemed like there were so many of them that they were represented. But what we eventually wound up doing is realizing, no, there's a huge chunk that'll follow Trump no matter what, and then so they'll be in favor of ICE. There's a lot of people that are in favor of it, no question, on the right. But wait a minute, does that really represent everyone on that side? And when you look further, you realize that's just not true, right?
Yeah.
That the American people are much more complicated than that, both on the left and the right. And the second phenomenon is that independent podcasters are not the same as corporate media. Corporate media gives their hosts and anchors talking points, and they are not allowed to divert from them. Now, I told you that about MSNBC. Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly are telling you that about Fox News. We were there, guys. They have talking points, and that's why I left MSNBC, because I wouldn't do those talking points. Now in independent media, they don't have a boss or an overlord handing them those talking points. These are their genuine opinions. The ones you disagree with and the ones you agree with,
yeah,
they're both genuine.
Absolutely. So I love what Shawn Ryan had to say about ICE's conduct as it pertains to Renee Good and Alex Preddy. But I want to be clear, ICE's conduct has been so bad that there are now reports about how detainees are being treated in these ICE facilities. And I want to give you some of those details. So support for ICE and immigration enforcement more broadly is a big issue for the Republican base. Typically, they're pretty supportive. So how do some conservatives like Shawn Ryan get to a place where they're now critical of ICE? Well, it could have something to do with the report that I'm about to give you the details of, because it turns out that internal ICE records that were obtained by the Washington Post from an anonymous government employee show that as ICE's crackdown on illegal immigration has flooded detention centers with record numbers of detainees, this is graphic 1, guards inside those facilities have increasingly resorted to acts of physical force. Detention guards have used punches, kicks, takedown maneuvers, restraint holds, and restraint chairs, as well as less lethal weapons such as tasers and pepper spray, and that's according to the reports. These again are internal reports. The report also states that detainees, including a man with a lung condition, were sprayed with some orange chemical agent following detainee complaints about the abuse they were undergoing, and the fact that, by the way, they were not given back their belongings. So they also complained about the conditions they were being detained in. So let me give you some details on that. The incident was one of at least 780 in which staff members at ICE facilities used physical force or chemical agents to control immigrant detainees during the first year of the Trump administration, and things have only gotten worse since. So during the first year of Trump's second term, detention staff used force 37% more times than the previous year. But the number of people subjected to force rose even more sharply to 1,330 individuals, a 54% increase from the previous year under President Joe Biden, as officers increasingly use these tactics with groups of detainees, the reports show. So let's take a look at this next graph, which was provided by the Washington Post. I'll explain to you what you're looking at. So relevant research group found that there was, or there has been a 45% population increase for these facilities, and the instances of use of force involving multiple detainees has increased by 82% since Trump returned to office. That's what you're looking at now with this second graph. The facilities that are often these facilities are often operated by private companies. So Geo Group is one example of a private company that runs these ICE or detention facilities. And they've been trained by ICE and are required to document instances where force is used. But those reports have actually grown increasingly vague, sparse when it comes to the details necessary to really explain what's going on here, which prompts some serious concerns as over 30 people have died in ICE custody last year, making it the deadliest year for ICE detainees since 2004. So far this year, ICE has reported 18 deaths in custody, marking an even deadlier pace so far. So the deaths prove the abuse is taking place. The increased number of fatalities in these detention facilities proves that the abuse is taking place.
Yeah, so 30 people dying in detention is not acceptable. And none of this abuse is acceptable. But what I'm even more worried about is dehumanization setting in culturally, because that's where we're headed here.
Yeah, we don't want to be Israel.
Yeah, and that is part of it.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes I call that the Israelification of our society. And it starts first with criminals, and you go, well, yeah, I mean, of course you could do solitary confinement. If a criminal has bothered anyone inside a prison, like they spoke back to a prison guard, let's put them in the hole for a week, a month. No, that is universally recognized, internationally recognized as torture. We're social animals, we cannot be left in solitary confinement, even for a short period of time. But now we're putting them in for such long periods. Now that's already torture, right? But what that has done is it has begun to dehumanize detainees overall. Then it went from criminals to detainees that are undocumented immigrants that actually didn't break any laws. Now you could say, hey, maybe if you're on the right, you say they broke the law when they entered the country illegally. But some of them are grandmothers, some of them are kids, some of them are moms, and their big crime was hoping to have opportunity in America. These aren't people who robbed and raped people.
These are not violent, dangerous people.
At all.
Exactly.
And if they are, they're in a different place. Then they get brought to jail, right? And prison.
Yeah.
So these people are not criminals, and we're treating them with terrible abuse. Why? Because we're beginning to see them as non-humans. And by the way, the people after detainees is the average citizen. And so, and now you're seeing that in some of the ICE cases in the streets that Shawn Ryan referred to in the beginning. Oh, you're a mom, but you were 10 feet, 6 feet away from me in the car. I felt within, I felt slightly endangered. My toes felt slightly endangered, so I shot you in the head. And that's no big deal because you're not really fully human because you're not part of the authorities. So if this sets in, we become a completely different society, a brutal one, way closer to fascism and authoritarianism. And so I'm not saying that in a political way. I'm saying that in reality. Like, this is when they go to tread on you, they're not gonna care if you're on the left or the right.
Of course.
They're only gonna care if you have power or you don't have power.
They're already in a place where they don't care if you're on the left or the right. I mean, the way Trump treats his own supporters and voters, especially after he was implicated in the cover up of the Epstein files, tells you everything you need to know about how little they care about us. Let's just be very clear about that. And by the way, if you're under the impression that enough pressure will lead to the Trump administration hurrying to quell the public's concern of the lack of transparency when it comes to ICE and their conduct, have no fear because Trump is doing the exact opposite of what you would want. So look, the Department of Homeland Security announced this week that they are going to shutter the office of the Immigration Detention Ombudsman. And if you're wondering, okay, what is that office? Why do I care? It turns out that that's the group, that's the watchdog group that investigates allegations of abuse and mistreatment within migrant detention facilities.
So, Anna, I feel like this is the Stanford prison experiment in real life, right?
Yeah.
So, everybody who took Psychology 101 knows this. This is where they did an experiment, I think, in the 1970s in Stanford. So really bright kids and well-educated kids. They divided them into guards and prisoners. And instantly, the guards started abusing the prisoners because they felt like they had authority. It's in our nature, guys. It has nothing to do with race, religion, background, left, right. Everyone does it, okay? And the detainees and the prisoners started feeling inferior and got used to the abuse. But then the abuse got worse and worse. Now I know there's some revisionist history on that experiment, but that seems to hold in almost every instance, right? And so now when we bring that into the real world, and we remove the restraints that we normally had in American law, and a guy like Trump comes in and goes, do whatever you want to them. Then you put the Stanford Prison Experiment on steroids. And so that's what we're seeing here. It's guaranteed to bring abuse.
Yeah.
So we've got to be careful here, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like any of our leaders, certainly not Trump, is not at all careful.
All right, let's discuss our political prostitute of the day, Ted Cruz. Senator Ted Cruz will soon be the recipient of the Defender of Israel Award at a donor gala, or gala, depending on how you like to say it, hosted by none other than Miriam Adelson. Jake, your 2 cents.
It's a cucktastrophe.
Absolutely.
So Ted Cruz is gonna get cucked here. You're gonna enjoy the details. But of course, I'm gonna bring up that everyone in mainstream media says, I don't see the bribery. I don't see him serving Israel. I'm blind, deaf, and dumb. Plus, I'm the dumbest person in America. That's why I'm a reporter. All right, let's give you the real facts.
So let's take a look at the flyer for the Israeli-American Council event that Senator Cruz will be honored at. All right, you're taking a look at that. The gala's theme is Strength and Unity, Leadership Meets Action. Cruz is the event's keynote speaker. And a ticket to this gala will cost you not much, just $2,500 for one ticket. But if you become a donor club member at the Israeli American Council, you get some extra perks. If you're wondering what those perks are, I'm about to tell you. Donor club membership includes gala access and year-round engagement, exclusive gatherings, and unparalleled networking with national leaders, philanthropists, and decision makers shaping the future of our community. I would literally pay them $2,500 to not have to go if I were ever asked to go. Like the idea of being in that room. But here's the thing, Ted Cruz loves it. He jumps in it as he told, actually, I won't put words in his mouth. Let's go to that Tucker Carlson video because he told Tucker Carlson and the rest of the American people what his whole purpose in the United States Senate really is. Take a look.
I've never taken money from the Israel lobby, have you?
Taken money from the Israel?
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective.
My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay. When was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets.
No.
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government, and I don't. It's not. It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Let's just go to graphic 4 so you get a sense of how much Senator Cruz has taken from the Israel lobby. Oh, would you look at that? $1,411,545.
That's at a bare minimum because a lot of the money comes through dark money and they can't trace the dark money. So he's taking an enormous amount of money. So guys, look, this is why I get so frustrated at the media. I'm sorry if I keep saying it over again, but how can a reporter see that he gets paid millions of dollars? He just told you his top goal in the Senate is to serve Israel. And then say, oh, AIPAC doesn't lobby for Israel? I mean, Tucker asked a great question, which is, then what do they lobby for? And reporters look at that and go, no, I don't see how Israel's influencing him or controlling him at all. In fact, I think it's offensive if you say that. I think it's offensive if you're that unintelligent and you can't make the simplest conclusion from what he literally told you and the money that he's paid to serve Israel. And then you say, no, I can't see it. Well, I don't think anyone can be that stupid. That's why I think almost everyone in our media is deeply corrupt. And I would say that Tucker Carlson, by exposing Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, and others, has done more journalism than almost any mainstream media reporter.
I mean, of course.
And
that's why they hate him so much. I mean, let's keep it real.
Not one reporter in mainstream media ever asked Ted Cruz any of these questions.
No, that's why that interview was so incredible to see, right? Especially because it was Tucker Carlson who was carrying it out and who held Senator Cruz's feet to the fire. And look, the mainstream media clearly has been salty about that ever since. Because when Tucker Carlson did the sit-down interview with the New York Times podcast, they were furious that he treated Senator Cruz that way, but was more polite to Nick Fuentes, who has no political power whatsoever.
And at the end of the interview, if you made it all the way there, the New York Times says, and we asked Ted Cruz, and he says that he has done nothing for Israel. Like they stated it like it was a fact, right? Like, oh, this idiot Tucker Carlson, this conspiracy theorist. But in reality, Ted Cruz hasn't been biased towards Israel at all.
No, not at all.
Come on, what a bunch of liars. But let's go to Adelson. So I want to go to video 2 here. So Miriam Adelson's throwing this shindig, right? So in a different Israeli gathering, there's a million of them. She was asked about how she buys politicians, and awkward, watch this.
Miri, you and Sheldon created a lot of relationship over the years with politicians at the state level, especially at the federal level. I want you to share with everyone, why is it so important and how do you do it? Again, writing checks is part of it, but there is more than writing just checks. So how do you do it?
Can you allow me not to answer?
You choose.
I want to be truthful, and there are so many things that I don't want to talk about.
The reason that both of you were able to make huge differences is because you got involved. And you spent a lot of time and yes, a lot of money on it, but you got involved and you cared.
So guys, first of all, he's like, can you tell us how you buy American politicians? She's like, I'm gonna take the Fifth Amendment on that. That was wonderfully awkward. And the guy sitting on the other side, by the way, is one of the top donors to Democrats in my lifetime, #1 donor to the Clintons. But Miriam Adelson, current #1 donor to Donald Trump, used to be a donor for the Clintons. Because they don't care about Republicans or Democrats, they're buying the whole government. And so, well, if you say, Cenk, I don't know if I believe you. I mean, do you have anybody on the record talking about that? Let's go to the third video here.
Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got 60 billion in the bank, 60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it. And they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. But I actually asked her, I'm gonna get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say.
So funny.
She sold us out she got me to sell out America for Israel.
Oh my gosh, she likes Israel more.
Ted Cruz also works for Israel, and she bought him off. She bought off so many of our politicians. And the media's like, I don't see it. I don't hear it.
Yeah, I can't stand these people. I can't get the F out of my country. Get out of my country.
Okay, if you don't know, Miriam Adelson and Sheldon Adelson, her late husband, flew Jonathan Pollard back to Israel on their private jet and then threw him a party when he landed in Israel.
Get out of my country.
Jonathan Pollard.
Leave, please leave, please leave. Go live in it. I don't understand why they're here. Why are you here, Miriam?
Oh, to rob us. That's why they're here. There's no question about it.
I know.
So Miriam Adelson and those guys put in a couple $100 million, and they get back a couple $100 billion from America. Yet another thing that every reporter in the country just couldn't notice. Oh my God, they got an amazing return on investment. They put in hundreds of millions, they get hundreds of billions, but no reporter could find it. Hey, it's reported everywhere. Can you make the connection? Don't make the connection, protect Israel, says our media. So it's obvious that our politicians are captured by Israel and our media is captured by Israel. We live under occupation. Until we end that occupation here in America, there is no second issue. Because we have no sovereignty. What you think and what I think about any particular issue is irrelevant because we don't have any effect on our own government. Miriam Adelson and her friends own our government, and anyone telling you otherwise is lying to you on purpose to keep you asleep so you don't notice that you're occupied and being actively robbed by these donors. Okay, we gotta go. When we come back though, Operation Joy.
God bless you.
All right, back on Operation Joy on TYT. Cenk Uygur, Annika Sparing with you guys. This is where we just try to spread a little joy in the world.
Do we?
Well, on Operation Joy,
we do. We try to.
Yeah. So it's a respite. It's an oasis.
Let's not go too far.
But here, I'll give you a couple of my pieces of joy. They're a little political in this particular case. We showed you a bunch of clips of me talking to Shawn Ryan earlier on the Young Turks. But we left one out because it had curses, and if we bleep out the curses, you wouldn't have understood it. And so this is Shawn Ryan, who I was told earlier was in a cult and could not ever disagree with MAGA. Let's hear what he said in this case.
People think I'm making fucking money off speaking out against what Israel's doing, and it's like actually it's quite the opposite. Actually, you know what I did get? I got a nice propaganda letter that wanted me to come visit Israel and give me a fucking tour. I didn't do it, and you know, I never got the offer, but there was the what $7,000 a post or something to be pro-Israel. I'm not. I haven't, other than bullshit bots and you know, retarded MAGA people on the internet saying that the Muslims or the Muslim Brotherhood's paying all. That's fucking garbage.
Huh, that's weird. He used the R word about MAGA people. I thought he was in a MAGA cult. What happened? Okay, that's just a fun little joy moment for me. I'm moving on.
We're both married, so yeah, we're moving on.
Yeah, yeah. No. Look, what that kind of honesty is refreshing.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's So he's not hesitating about it. So if you say like, oh, but is he saying something bad about his own side? I mean, you just saw it.
No, but that's what's hot about it. That there's a level of honesty there that's rare when it comes to people talking about their own sides, and we need that honesty in order to get to a better place in this country.
And there's a second thing, lack of fear.
Lack of fear.
Yes.
Hot.
Okay, so now we have breaking news. Donald J. Trump has just put this out. This is real, based on the request of Pakistan and other countries, the tremendous military success that we have had during the campaign against the country of Iran, and additionally, the fact that great progress has been made toward a complete and final agreement with the representatives of Iran, we have mutually agreed that while the blockade will remain in full force and effect, Project Freedom, the movement of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, will be paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement can be finalized and signed. President Donald J. Trump. So Project Freedom didn't last long. That was what, 2 days?
Look, to be fair, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth just this morning said this will be a temporary operation. We just didn't realize how temporary it was going to be.
Okay, look, if the war ends, we would have, maybe we do a whole episode of Operation Joy.
Dude, let me just say, if the war ended, we do 2 episodes fully dedicated to Operation Joy. I mean, I would love the war to, it would be fantastic if it just all ended. We bring military assets and our troops back home. We've already done, I mean, the Trump administration has already done tremendous damage to this country just by entering this war. I would love to leave Israel abandoned when it comes to Iran, honestly.
It's not our business.
You guys said you wanted to keep fighting. Go ahead, keep fighting. Keep it going, we're out.
It's just not our business.
It's a fantasy, that's never gonna happen, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when Myanmar started slaughtering the Rohingya Muslims. So look, also not our business, so we didn't do anything about it, even though it's a little heartbreaking. But in this case, what the American government is doing is saying, we're gonna support Myanmar as they slaughter more of Muslims, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, but bottom line here is the reason why that Project Freedom ended so abruptly is twofold. One is Iran's like, if you're going to try to break our blockade, then we definitely don't have a ceasefire. You're not allowed to go through there. If you do, we will fire on you.
We will send the kamikaze dolphins.
That's unbelievable that they think that. Anyway, and so it was untenable. That it just meant going back into war. And I'm sure the Pakistani prime minister, but not that he's that relevant, we use him mainly as a proxy, and everyone involved was like, bro, if you want a ceasefire, you can't try to bring your warships through the Strait. It doesn't make any sense. And the second thing is, we did try it, and Iran bombed one of our warships and hit it.
Oops.
So now, which ship are we gonna send through to get hit again? So he had to end Project Freedom.
Yeah.
So he's trying to make it seem like I am magnanimous and the war is almost over. That's why I've ended Project Freedom. My ass.
I like tacos.
But in this case, I do like it.
No, this is great.
Yeah.
Let's please wrap this up. Wrap the whole thing up.
Yep.
And make a deal. Make a deal. I mean, you're a deal maker, right? Make it happen. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So on the core Operation Joy, I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's too long, but I want to give a shout out to Adam Coleman on Substack. I actually saw it on your account.
Oh.
Okay, the person who wrote in saying that basically that we got it right?
What? I don't remember this.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's on your Substack. Everybody check out Anna's Substack.
Unaligned, yeah.
Okay, I'll just read you the first couple of paragraphs. Adam wrote in, Cenk Uygur said it plainly this week. He voted for 3 corporate Democrats he personally couldn't stand, and he'd do it again. He has no interest in rubbing it into people who were misled, and he's been right about Trump from the very beginning. I'm not a Young Turks loyalist. I disagree with Cenk on plenty, but on this specific question, the one that actually mattered, he called it correctly every single time. And the people who mocked him for it owe him quite the acknowledgement they'll never publicly give. Before the 2024 election, Cenk was using the phrase unstable madman to describe Trump on international television, not as a hyperbole, as a clinical assessment dressed in plain language. The professional commentariat cringed, the both sides crowd clucked. Independent media bros accused him of fear-mongering for the Democratic establishment. None of them were right, and Cenk was. He also warned for over a year that Joe Biden could not win, and not as a talking point, as an analysis backed by polling, cognitive reality, and a clear-eyed reading of the electorate. He was told that he was helping Trump. He was told to fall in line. 1989. He ran a quixotic presidential campaign precisely to force the conversation. Biden eventually stepped aside. Too late, but the diagnosis Cenk offered was correct. So he goes on, and I appreciate it, and check out Adam Coleman's newsletter as well on Substack. But it did bring me a little bit of relief and joy to see at least one person write it, not connected to TYT at all. And I thought that it was pretty evident that I was right, that Trump is a madman and that Biden was too unpopular and fragile to run against him. But a lot of people don't find it obvious. So when someone actually said it, I was like, oh, thanks God. At least one person said it.
Yeah, I just, look, I don't blame people for being as cynical as they are, because both the media and our political system is just full to the brim with grifters and people who don't actually care about a damn thing other than making money for themselves. So I totally get that. But it does suck because people who have pure intentions get caught up in that cynical cycle as well, where people just assume you're doing everything for your own hidden agenda. I promise you, if I had a hidden agenda, I would not succeed in concealing it, because I can't conceal shit. Like, I'm so bad at hiding how I feel about everything. So I have no choice but to just tell you exactly what I'm thinking, because that's what I want to do. With Cenk, it's the same thing. I just think you and I are not great poker players. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, so guys, we do a show where we yell and scream about what we think. What's the point of hiding it?
Yeah.
Like, that would defeat the whole point. Anyways, I'll give you one. I hadn't seen this one before it came in today. Pessimistic Progressive said, Anna, I watched your tea interview. It was great. Aww. I love the points of unity you made.
Thank you. By the way, I love her. Dr. Francois, I think.
Miriam Francois.
Yeah, Miriam Francois, she's amazing. I didn't even know she was Muslim.
She is?
Yeah, she's Muslim. She said it in the context of my interview on her show, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
So that's interesting, because I'm gonna go get interviewed by her when I'm in London, and so I'm gonna do a bunch of interviews.
When are you going to London?
I'm going first week of June.
Okay.
So on June 2nd, I'm gonna be at South by Southwest London, and we're doing a very limited number of tickets that we're giving away. If you want that, go to tyt.com/London, tyt.com/London, and so it is kind of a cool moment for the family. So I'm gonna do a bunch of appearances in London with, you know, a lot of the media there. Of course, I'm gonna do Piers in person when I'm there.
Nice.
Then we're gonna go up to Oxford. I'm gonna do Oxford Speaks and Oxford Union. But the nice moment is Hassan and I will do Oxford Union together. We happen to be in town at the same time. So on June 6th, we'll do a speech together. So it's kind of a neat, I think, nice moment for my sister to have her brother and her son speak at Oxford together. So God bless. Maybe that's her a little bit of joy. Okay, I want to read more comments that you guys sent in today, and then I'll go to the comments from tyt.com/joy. Let's share your joy. Starry Night Squirrel Dragon says, my Operation Joy contribution update on the weight loss. I've now lost 40 pounds.
Wow.
But damn, it felt good to pig out at Cinco de Mayo today. The other 30 pounds can wait. LOL, see what I did there? I did see it, and good luck on the next 30 pounds. I love it. That's a beautiful story.
It's good to have cheat days.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Ilidium Q36 Dragon says, my Operation Joy, Sherry DeVoe just became the first female trainer ever to win the Kentucky Derby, and the jockey, Jose Ortiz, scored his first Derby victory after winning the Oaks the day before. Well, I love that floats your boat, and that's what got you to be joyous. So that's beautiful, I love it. So I'm passing this to Anna, and I'll read you guys stuff from tyt.com/joy. Jack Callahan, a little saucy today. He writes in, my joy is multifaceted this week. Yesterday, April 27th, so of course when he wrote it in, I learned that I'll never have prostate cancer. Which is awesome.
Nice.
I'll be turning 73 on Friday. So We did that birthday shout out. So happy birthday again, Jack. So I can't tell you how much that worries off my shoulders. My yearly visit to my urologist, who's a total babe in her 30s.
Get it? She was checking your prostate? Okay.
I'm guessing, he says. Excuse me, I'm digressing, he says. Told me I had one of the lowest PSA scores she has seen. So that's a lot of good news on a lot of fronts, as you said. And he said, finally, I was bowled over as I know friends and colleagues that have wrestled with prostate cancer, and it is awful. My joy increased as it seemed strangely fine to talk about ejaculations with a female. Okay, again, like I said, he's a little saucy today. I also had credit for the doctor's visit, which cost me nothing. I feel great. The only concern is Israel dropping a nuke in my so-called golden years. Oh well, a little sang-froid never hurt. I'm happy cheering on, watching my favorite news program, TYT. Thanks, guys. Okay.
All right.
God bless, that's great news, I love it. Jack's a great part of the community. Benjamin wrote in, Maxi bath time while listening to TYT, joy. So let's look at Maxi. Oh, okay.
I gotta give Charlie a bath. He's not difficult to give a bath to. He stays put, lets me do what I need to do. I don't even like taking a shower myself. Like it's time consuming, things get messy, you know. Not when I shower, with Charlie specifically. Anyway.
Okay, all right, I'm getting out of that conversation.
Let's move on. I'm exhausted, I need to stop talking.
Okay, so I should take a video of Meowsers doing this. So Meowsers loves my belly rubs now. So I've trained him to stop biting and clawing, which was a huge problem the first year, because if he does any of that, I go no, and I stop the belly rub, and he's like, okay, all right, I'll listen.
That's awesome.
Okay, and so now when I look at him when he goes on the dining room table, and I go no, and he goes, all right, I'm getting off, and then he gets off. Anyways, but the reason I brought it up is now when he sees me, and especially when I come in, he goes like this. He leans in with one of his ears. And then he flops on his stomach.
Oh, it's so cute. Oh, it's so cute.
Okay, all right. Brandon B, 1945 writes in, my operation joy is my stepdad finally getting his VA benefits. He's a Vietnam veteran with a Purple Heart. He's been suffering from severe tendonitis from being a machine gunner on a helicopter. They didn't have proper hearing protection or bite guards, and it really messed up his jaw and ears. He's in constant pain. Now he's finally scheduled for surgery next Thursdays, and I'm so grateful. So that was both joyous and heartbreaking at the same time. I mean, the brother was in Vietnam, and we're barely getting him treatment now. And I remember during the Iraq War, the #1 piece of propaganda they used was support the troops. Support the troops. Anytime you question the war. And back then, Ben Mankiewicz and I would be like, well, we're supporting them because we
by not sending them to their death?
Exactly. But guys, see, Anna, I lived through that era, right?
I remember.
And so
I did too.
No, but I lived it in terms of like, I would say, let's not get them killed, and they'd say, so you hate them. And everyone in media said it at the same time. So I'm used to a wall of propaganda from national media. I'm used to them lying in mass, in over-the-top ways, and then pretending that they're objective. What part of getting their legs blown off and getting PTSD and getting hit with an IED is supporting the troops? And what part of making them wait 50 years before they get treatment is supporting the troops? So I get it that the politicians are liars, but it's too painful to think of how almost our entire news media infrastructure in this country was meant to not give you the truth, but to lie to you on purpose.
What's interesting now, thinking about the way Americans were treated during the Bush years if they spoke out against the war in Iraq, that type of treatment is very similar to the way we're being treated now when it comes to being critical of Israel's conduct, right?
100%.
It's so similar, and gee, I wonder why it's similar. Anyway.
Oh, that's weird. If you oppose any of Israel's objectives, the media lies in mass and then tries to blame you for the giant problems that Israel has caused.
They straw man you. They straw man you and claim that you hate things you don't hate. Like in the case of the war with Iraq, you don't hate the troops.
Yeah.
Right? In the case of our criticism toward Israel, oh, you hate Jewish people. I don't hate Jewish people at all. Okay, but I do hate a political ideology that convinces people that it's okay to slaughter innocents and steal their land.
No, we got to go back to Joe, but you're forcing me to give one last analogy there, guys. Imagine if when the Saudis chopped up a reporter, everyone in media at the same time were like, wait, you're not allowed to say that because that's anti-Muslim bigotry, that's Islamophobia.
Right.
Because Saudi Arabia is a Muslim state. So if you're criticizing them for chopping up a reporter, that must mean that you hate Muslims. We all would have been like, what? If one person said it, let alone everyone in media. But now everyone in media says, not one person, if you object to them killing 73,000 people, they're not the problem, you're the problem, because you hate them based on their religion. Nobody talked about the Saudi religion or the Israeli religion other than you guys in mainstream media who brought it up just to smear people. And it's interesting that you didn't do that for Saudi Arabia and you don't do that for any other country. Okay, let's go back to Joe.
All right, we've got Mad Maddie Dragon who says, I keep meaning to send an email for Operation Joy and forgetting. I have 11 cats, they are my joy, and everyone needs to see a picture of them, so I will remember to send one soon. 11 cats is a lot of cats. And I'm glad that 11 cats is your joy. I don't know how you handle that. Cats are crazy. Cats be jumping on everything. They love to jump on countertops and tables. And I mean, I will allow it, but apparently others don't like it. And so my close friend Tom and his wife, Brittany, they got a cat recently, fairly recently, Gemma is her name. And they keep putting her in cat jail, which I think is unacceptable, and cat jail should be abolished. They're doing it because she keeps jumping on their countertops and stuff.
Yeah, no, it's super tough to train a cat. They're not as easy to train as dogs.
They've got a mind of their own.
Oh, they most certainly do, yeah. And so, but they're fun little critters. So every once in a while, Meowsers decides that he's gonna, that's his active time. And he'll just go around the house and then he does flips. I mean, he's a totally crazy cat. Like he'll start flipping around on the ground like this, rolling around. He'll come up and tag you with it.
Does he ever have the zoomies?
Yeah, what is that?
Where your pet just starts like out of nowhere, running all over the place in the house.
Oh,
like one room to another, I love the zoomies. Always amuse me.
Oh, Meowsers is the king of the zoomies.
Yeah.
Yeah, zoomies is his middle name.
Love it.
Yeah, and he'll do the wildest things on there, and he'll climb to the very top of something, and they'll look down at me like, yeah, you got any issues?
Love it.
So super fun.
Okay, let's go to Vegas Gen X Dragon. I want to share with you all, I'm living as far north in Utah as you can get before hitting Idaho. I stream your network all day long in my front yard while gardening. Pray for my poor neighbors.
Well, I love that. Let them know, brother, let them know. And now your life sounds pretty fun, actually.
That does, I would love to. I love gardening. I don't have a garden, so I make use of my mom's garden. And the other day I bought like a bunch of flowers and planted them. People who have yards, I hope you know how fortunate you are. I would kill to have some outdoor space. Let's go to Illudium Q36 Dragon, who says, my Operation Joy, Cherie Deva just.
Oh, I read that one already.
Oh, you did, okay, apologies. That's it, we don't have anything else.
Interesting.
Yeah, I read everything.
Okay, so then I'll add more of my stories. So had a lovely time with the kids over the weekend, but I always have a lovely time with them. And I'm learning new words all the time, of course. And I always ask for the hot goss from, from school.
What are the words? Tell me, I need to learn.
Yeah.
I like to be with it.
Now I brought that up, but I don't have a good example right now. And in fact, sometimes I'll surprise them with words that they didn't know, and I'm like, oh, what happened now?
Kids don't say dope anymore. Did you know that?
Yes, I most certainly did know that.
That's crazy.
Is it crazy?
I do think it's crazy. Dope is great. Why would you get rid of dope? That's dope.
They just rotate through them. So Pro's unfortunately getting slightly addicted to video games, and I'm trying to get him off of it. But he did get into a summer program at Penn.
Nice. Okay, you sound like my mom.
Yeah.
Forced me to go to a community college at 13.
Yeah, but look, we're obsessed with colleges because we're immigrants, and so every time you tell me that's like, I think of your story of how your parents wanted you to go to Cal State Northridge instead of USC.
No, they were okay with me going to USC if USC transferred, because I remember I took 2 years of community college. I had my AA and high school diploma completed at the same time.
That's crazy.
But USC refused to transfer my community college credits.
Because they got to charge you more money.
And the reason why I did 2 years of college simultaneously with high school is because I wanted to help my parents save money on my college tuition. But once they said, we're not gonna transfer those credits, you're gonna have to take all those classes all over again, and you're gonna have to pay for 4 years of USC, my parents are like, you can't. That's a bad idea. You're gonna be in a lot of debt, and you don't want to start off your life with debt, right? So then, since my parents didn't allow me to travel far or out of state for college, they wanted me to stay. I lived with my parents until I was 26. That was like the rule, okay? CSUN was the only other option, so I went to CSUN. And you know what? I'm happy with that decision.
You were just inducted into their Digital Media Hall of Fame.
I was, yes.
Congrats, that's awesome. That gave me joy.
It was a little bit of a backhanded compliment.
Why?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you get that award if you have accomplished a successful career for at least 20 years. So it has been almost 20 years since I graduated with my journalism degree, and I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that.
No, the minute you said 20 years, I understood why. Okay, so you got 2 awards in one weekend.
I did.
So was it? It's not Armenian of the Year, is it?
So there's no, it was not Armenian of the Year. It was
because I don't know. I got Golden Turk of the Year once.
Well, you are a Golden Turk. No, the Truth and Accountability League, which is a Armenian organization, honored me with a Truth and Courage Award because of the work I've done in discussing Gaza and everything else, what happened to Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh with Israeli weapons being used against them, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and I had a super powerful speech at that award ceremony. So I'm super proud of you for both of those.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it's nice to be acknowledged, and especially in the Armenian community.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay, real quick. I got to tell you guys. It actually gave me a tremendous amount of joy. So early on in my career, and I don't blame Armenians for thinking this and for being kind of vicious. They were pretty vicious to me early on in my career because I work for a show called The Young Turks. Now, obviously in the context of America, Young Turk means rebel, right? That's the reason why Rod Stewart named one of his most popular songs Young Turk. That's the reason why the agency CAA had a group of talent agents who referred to themselves as the Young Turks. We don't cover Turkish politics on this show. Obviously, it's not named after a Turkish group, period. But it doesn't matter. You see the name of the show, you think what you think. And so I dealt with a lot of, Armenians who didn't like me, hated me, and kind of harassed me over it. But at this Armenian event, because of the work I've done in drawing attention to what happened in Nagorno-Karabakh, the Armenian genocide, what I've been talking about in regard to Gaza, they realized, oh, I guess we were wrong about her. Right, and so a few people came up to me during that event to apologize. I have never had that happen, and it meant the world to me. Even though I haven't held on to any grudge or animosity, just hearing people say, I was wrong about you, I've changed my mind. Because I love my community, I love Armenians. You know what I'm saying? So it was a little bit painful in the early years, but you grow thicker skin and you get over it, and to finally come full circle and have these people realize who I really am, it meant the world.
Yeah, so lately Armenians have been kind of great to us, and I appreciate it, I love it, and I appreciate their understanding that they get it now, that that has nothing to do with them, and every time we fight against genocide. Isn't that a beautiful thing about America? I mean, we did a segment last night on Member Mondays on what do you appreciate about America, and that's one thing I appreciate. an Armenian and a Turk do a show together, and we fight genocide together.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's the best side of America, that we put all those old grudges and ethnic hatreds and rivalries aside, and we come here and we're all Americans together.
Absolutely.
And that's a beautiful thing about our country. And so I don't want that ever changing. And so it's a beautiful moment for it to come around like that. Love it. And so now the only people complaining about our name
are Israelis.
Are Israelis pretending that they care about that?
They really care about Armenians. Really care about Armenians.
That's why they're killing him in southern Lebanon right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, okay, but not any of that. Look, next time we do Operation Joy, I'm gonna give you guys more of my what I hope are helpful hints. And then if you've got any stories for if any of those different hints that we've given you throughout all these Operation Joy segments has helped you, let us know about it. And if you have any questions about, well, look, everybody's always stressed and upset, etc. There's a million things going wrong. Ask me. Like for example, I can get to like a moment of zen where I put every worry aside, and I have a completely blank slate. And I can focus purely on happiness. If you want to know how I do that, sure, I'd be happy to explain. So let's interact more. Let's get more questions in, and let's try to help you with not just telling the beautiful stories that you guys tell us, but start to work towards getting all of us just a little bit happier, because it's really important that you be filled with joy. First of all, for your life, put everything else aside, but also so you have enough momentum and optimism, etc., to help us tackle all the issues we got to tackle together, okay? Love you guys. Old School is later tonight, Michael Schur and I, and we've got some saucy topics for you guys as always. So that's gonna be at 9:30 Eastern. That's just for the members when it's live, and then you'll get it as a podcast later.
Bye-bye.